are you tonight? I'm glad to see you here. I already see the chat popping. I knew that was going to happen as soon as you read my topic for the night. Before I get into it and some of the foolishness that's going on the timelines and in the news, I want to take care of a little business. Welcome, new subbies. How are you? I'm glad you chose to subscribe. They're not treating you right on them other channels. You don't want them people bullshitting with you and your time. Come on over to the block, okay? I got you. What's up, new subbies? What's up, regulars? Everybody that runs a wrench in the chat, y'all know what to do with it. Don't let nobody get out of pocket. They can argue, they can scream, they can yell, they can stomp, jump up and down, but don't let them get out of pocket. And we already know what out of pocket is. Let me get an audio and video check, por favor. Audio and video check. Yes, people in the chat, we're sticking to the topic tonight. I promise you that. Let's take care of a little business. I am on the block with Jen, YouTube's bad girl. How are you? Nice to see you here. Okay. I am on the block with Jen on TikTok. You got to check out my reels. You're in for a good time. I'm also on the block with Jen on Instagram. And if you want to email me, hit me at ontheblockWithJen@gmail. If you want to support my channel, there it is on the bottom. The Cash App is scrolling. That is not the stock market prices. That is my Cash App. I am also on the block with Jen Cash App. Or if you want to support the channel via the super chat, throw a super chat in there and I will read your comments. I appreciate you much. But this is a church and mama got to keep the lights on. So before I get into the small details of what else is going on in the world besides my topic, I have to let you know, sorry, ladies, and a couple of you gentlemen, I want to experiment tonight. I want to keep it on men. I know a lot of people are going to come in here and say, but women too. But little girls gotta, and women go through. I know that, but I want to experiment. I want to know if we can stay on one topic, which is, are we too hard on Black men? I know everybody got it hard. All of us got it hard. If we don't work, we can't pay rent, we can't eat. But I specifically want to stay on this topic. And I have faith in y'all that y'all could do it. I have faith without the whataboutisms tonight. Okay? Now, whataboutisms are cool and they're fun for debates. And we're going to debate tonight. But I want to stick to, are we too hard on Black men? Just Black men, right? Of course, I could pick any other demographic in the United States of America and say they have it hard, she has it hard, we have it hard, them over there, them women, that everybody got it hard. I just want to stick to this tonight. You guys probably saw or haven't Scrappy from Love and Hip Hop. I know a lot of us don't watch that anymore, but some of us still do. And there's a video of him yelling at his mama and explaining what he went through with his mama that's gone a little viral in the streets. And I wanted to address it because it actually touched me. And we know that reality shows are propaganda and a lot of it is overacting and bad acting. But this, for some reason, this clip really touched me. It was relatable in a couple different ways for me. And I'll get into that. But I wanted to touch on what Scrappy was saying to his mother and how he was saying it. I have the clip for you guys, so I'm going to play it so you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? I thought it was very, very interesting, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that. I'm hoping that the men watching or the men that came up tonight talk about their experiences, right? We could talk about this without the whataboutisms. I promise you, we can do it. I have faith in you. I wanted to go over a couple things that are happening that got the our timelines abuzz a bit. First of all, I don't know if you guys care about Brittany Griner. I know she's not hot on the presses anymore, but baby girl, and I call her baby girl because she's in her 20s, right? And anyone who's 20 something to me is a baby to me because of my age. But anyway, Brittany Griner was transferred to a forced labor camp in Russia. Okay. Now, reality just got real, right? Because we know she got locked up for the cannabis vapes or whatever, the CBD, the CDB, whatever vapes. We know she got locked up for that, right? And then a lot of people who cammed up with me when I spoke about Brittany Griner told me she'll be out in 6 months. They're going to trade her for a Russian terrorist. She'll be out in 6 months, a year tops. And here she is, fully convicted and sentenced to 9 years. Not only that, but transferred to a hard labor camp. That's fucked up, right? But that's how they do things in Russia. That's why you have to be very, very careful when you're traveling abroad, okay? It is not America. America has a very funny style, you know what I mean? Judicial system. Money rules here, right? Money rules here. You could be the worst of the worst. You could be any race. I know a lot of people like to say, no, but the system is unfair. The system is unfair mostly to poor people. It's not just people of color. If you walk in there like OJ and you can afford a dream team of lawyers, you're probably going to walk out the fucking court. You know that, and you're going to walk out free if you can afford that, right? Now, if OJ Simpson was a Renthal from the South Bronx, he probably would have did heavy time, life in prison for killing 2 white folk. But because he was a Renthal, the millionaire, he was able to afford a dream team of lawyers. He walked out that bitch, even though he sliced and diced and filleted a white woman. That's how our justice system is, right? So Russia has points to prove, right? And you know, they got beef with America. They got this love-hate shit going, right? For many, many years. We've seen it play out in movies, Drago and Rocky, right? It's a big deal. It's like the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees, or the fucking Cowboys and the Giants, that old shit, right? That's Russia. So Russia said, bite me, and not only kept her, sentenced her, but now she's getting transferred to a forced labor camp. Ouch. Ouch. Can you imagine being an American locked up abroad? Okay, sentenced 9 fucking years. You're never going to touch U.S. soil in 9 fucking years. And you appealed. She already appealed. And they told her, not here, not now, right? And now you're being transferred to a forced labor camp when she had the luxury of being out there and playing basketball. So now her job is forced labor. I know my viewers and my subbies are very smart, so I'd love for somebody to Google as I go on with this stream. I'd love somebody to Google and tell me, what is forced labor in Russia, right? What is it? Are they making license plates? Are they making furniture? Are they making sneakers? What is forced labor? Is she shoveling coal out of a mine? What's forced labor? If you guys can tell me, I don't know everything. I know what I know, but I'd love to hear what forced labor looks like in Russia. If there's any information about it online, I'd love to know what little Miss Brittany Griner is going to be doing. Now, I will say this. That's a big mamma jamma. If anybody can handle forced labor, it is that woman. She's almost 7 feet tall. She's an athlete. I don't think she's going to suffer too much, okay? I don't think she cares about her manicure, right? Forced labor for like maybe, I don't know, give me a name. For like a Candace Owens, forced labor is going to be a lot. But for Brittany, you know what I'm saying? Brittany's stronger than a lot of men that are running around out here. So she's going to be able to handle it physically. Now, emotionally and mentally, ooh, child, I wish her all the luck in the world because she is going to need it. It's a harsh reality. But yeah, let me know, guys, if you know, or you know off top, or you can search what the fuck is forced labor in Russia. Sounds scary, probably is. So moving on, in jail news, Brett Favre is still not locked up. Yay! And his case got even more complicated because there's another $1 million that's unaccounted for that supposedly came from his camp, right? To him. You guys know there was supposed to be some money for volleyball and some welfare and, you know, helping out people that were disenfranchised and poor. And these motherfuckers lined their pockets with it, even though they were already wealthy as is. I don't think Brett Favre was hurting for money, but it goes back to a lot of what what's said online. He rich though. She rich though. You don't know how these people's money is tied up. You don't know what's liquid. You don't know what's cash. You don't know really, really, really what these people are working with, even when they're quote unquote wealthy. You just don't know. And you don't know the fucking the lure of greed. Brett Favre, as you know, is supposedly, allegedly rich, wealthy. If you Google his net worth, right, it's like millions of dollars. But we don't know how his money's tied up. We don't know if these people are alcoholics, gamblers. We don't know if they owe people money. We just don't know, right? But it's quite curious that someone in his tax bracket, nonetheless, is stealing a couple $1 million from poor people, basically. It's interesting. He hasn't been charged and he's not locked up, but we'll see what happens. I don't see jail in his future. He's one of them guys that can afford, a dream team. He's up there in that tax bracket. So we'll see what happens with Brett Favre. But Brittany Griner, forced labor. Brett Favre, free as a bird. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. I don't know if you guys played the Powerball, but one person won the $2 billion, which is $1.6 billion after taxes. I said Kanye played that shit. Kanye was like, I'm getting my fucking $2 billion back. Just kidding. Someone in California won. They bought the ticket at some raggedy fucking pit stop in California, and they won them $2 billion. Tells you all you need to know about America, boy. You got Skid Row, you got people starving, you got disenfranchised neighborhoods, you got people that are homeless. But one motherfucker gambling can win $2 billion, 1.6 after taxes. Isn't that some shit? And we wonder why America is the ghetto of the world, right? Why it's so fucking ratchet here. This is clown country. I keep telling you guys that. You want a quick get rich scheme? Be a fucking clown in America. It fucking pays, and it pays a lot of money. Anyway, so America decided to give one person $1.6 billion because they threw some money on a card and paid probably $5 to play the fucking game. And then there's like 20 people who won $1 million because there's a certain amount of money you get if you hit 5 numbers or 4 numbers plus the bonus number. So a couple of people, I think it was like 20 people got $1 million, and then some other people got $500,000. So if you play, you're still, you can still win. It just won't be the 1.6. So somebody got 1.6. The person hasn't been identified yet. And if the person is smart, they will hide, right? Because everybody and their mama is coming for that money. That amount of money to go from nothing to 1.6 billion is fucking surreal. There is a thing called the lottery curse. A lot of them people that win the lottery end up dead, destitute, broke. All kinds of stuff happens to lottery winners. Because you have to look at it. If you didn't work for something and got that amount, you're really not going to know how to function, right? And a lot of us say, if I win, I'm going to get it. Well, a lot of people have won and completely fucked up their lives, right? You have to be mentally ready for something that grandiose. And a lot of people aren't ready to go from fucking broke to being fucking billionaires. Adidas has confirmed and solidified, speaking of billions of dollars, Adidas has confirmed and certified that they are going forward to sell the Yeezys without Yeezy. Why? Because they own the designs. So we can get mad at Adidas and the Jewish all we want, but apparently it looks like Adidas had the better attorneys when those contracts were signed with Kanye, aka Ye. It seems to me like if they're walking away with the designs and Kanye's walking away holding his balls, Adidas probably had the better attorneys, or Kanye just didn't read the fine print. But now we will see going forward if those sneakers were selling because they were dope, or they were selling because it was attached to a celebrity. I agree with Big Truck, one of my regular panelists. I think Kanye was always trolling people. He was making the most ridiculous or ugly type of shoe just to see if people would buy it because he was Kanye. So now moving forward with Adidas, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if those sneakers were dope or people were just buying them because of the celebrity worship and Kanye's name was attached. Either way, Adidas is fucking moving forward and continuing to sell the Yeezys, and they posted a picture of what Yeezys they will continue to sell. Them ugly gray space boots they're going to keep selling. Those ugly sweater sneakers, I call them sweater sneakers because the material looks like fucking sweater. And then the other ones that look like Payless shoes that have no fucking name. So those three are going to keep selling, and we'll see who buys them, or just, maybe people won't buy them because Kanye's not attached, or people will buy them, but we'll see how hot those sneakers are moving forward. They claim that they're going to save, 9 figures not fucking with Kanye anymore. So it's interesting because they lost money on one end, but according to Adidas, they are going to save 9 figures not fucking with him. So it's very interesting. This whole thing is very interesting, but it's a lesson again, and watch what the fuck you're signing, and make sure you have an attorney, and also make sure there's not a conflict of interest with your attorneys. If the company is Jewish and your attorneys are Jewish, that's something to think about, right? Because they like keeping things in-house. They win, right? So we'll see what happens moving forward with those hideous sneakers. I've always hated those sneakers, but people thought they were all the rave. I thought this bit of news was very, very, very fucking interesting. Oculus, if you guys know, you gamers, whatever, you fucking, you incels, you video heads, you video game junkies. Apparently, the founder of Oculus invented a headset that kills you if you die in the game. He invented a virtual reality headset. This is real. This is not a movie. This is not an episode of Black Mirror. He invented a headset that you put on, and if you die while playing the game, it kills you. There's some projectiles in the headset that kill you. Now, this is not in circulation yet. It's not for sale yet, but I see it coming in the future. Now, this is something that I can honestly see coming in the future, and there's going to be laws about it, I'm sure. Like, remember Dr. Kevorkian was killed, he was doing assisted suicide, and some people are against it and some people aren't, and then it's legal here and not legal there, but people were still signing up for Dr. Kevorkian and kill them, right? So, there's things that people fight in the beginning, and it's not morally right, it's not ethically right, but we're seeing things become legal that were illegal before. And I think this is something that will play out into the future. It's just like playing Russian roulette, right? Russian roulette, the fact that you can die playing Russian roulette didn't stop people from playing Russian roulette. I had some cousins that would play that shit. So it's real. So are people going to buy this virtual reality to get the ultimate adrenaline rush of possibly dying during a video game? I say yes, right? Because you would think jumping out of a plane is insane, right? We can all admit jumping out of a perfectly working plane is insane. Why is it insane? Parachute could fail. Something can go wrong up in the air. Boom, terminal velocity. You're dead. You're a splat. You're a stain on a California fucking sidewalk. But people still do that, right? People still bungee jump. We've seen people die trying to take selfies on mountains. So don't tell me that if this VR headset goes into circulations, that motherfuckers aren't going to buy it just for the thrill, just to be able to say, I survived the game. I see it coming very, very soon. And I see it being a fucking reality. And I probably know guys personally that would play that shit. I think it's going to happen. I say good. I think it'll get rid of a large demographic of the incels, and then they won't be in my comments fucking with me, right? Because they'll be dead under their VR headset. Yeah, I know that sounds cold, but not everybody should be here. With that said, I think it's going to happen. I think it's something that's going to happen. May not happen this year, may not happen in 5 years, but I guarantee, check back 30, 40 years, it's going to be idiots playing, waiting to die on their video games. It's going to happen. If you invent it, it's going to happen. If you invent it, there's some human being somewhere that wants to try that shit, right? Good luck to the incel population. Y'all in danger. Molly, y'all in danger, girl. And I see things like this coming more and more often when you watch shows like Black Mirror and things like that. You're like, oh shit, this shit, there's an episode of Black Mirror where you can put on a VR headset and fuck somebody in the video game. I know you guys have seen that. You could be gay in there and not be gay in your real life, but you could be gay in your virtual world. You could fuck whatever you want in the virtual world. And then I saw a documentary where there's this sex machine that goes in and out, and one guy controls it in his house, and another girl in another state puts the thing inside her, and the guy could control the fucking vibrator going in and out of her, and they don't even have to be in the same room. They don't even have to be in the same state, long as he has the controls. So if we already have that type of shit in circulation, what makes you think that we're not going to get a fucking VR headset with projectiles that go into your brain? It's going to happen, right? So good luck to all the Incelius Maximus population. Speaking of death, Aaron Carter, if you guys care, Nick Carter's little brother, Nick Carter from Backstreet Boys, are back. All right. Aaron Carter, younger brother, Nick Carter, is dead. I'm actually surprised it took him this long. He suffered from a lot, like, drug addiction, schizophrenia. If you watch any of his interviews, you can tell the dude was off. The kid was fucking completely off. But people like having these circus clowns on their podcasts and their shows because it gets people to view, like, let's look at the car crash. Let's look at the car crash roll down. And a lot of human beings are car crashes. I still say that's why everybody was interviewing Kanye West, because he's so fucking, unhinged. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch the crazies, right? And Aaron Carter had a truckload of crazies on him and in his mind. So I'm not surprised. He was found dead in his bathtub, and there was some compressed air cans that were found around him. So I guess he was looking for the ultimate high, the final high, and it took him all away. Took him all away. So, he's dead. Unfortunately, he just had a baby. Unfortunate for his child, because now his child doesn't have a daddy. In more death news, Takeoff's funeral is going to be November 11th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. They were giving out free tickets. So I think it's going to be really, really big, along the lines of Nipsey Hussle's funeral. If you guys remember, Nipsey Hussle's funeral was huge. Nipsey Hussle's funeral is still on YouTube. The opening fucking band of Nipsey Hussle's funeral. I mean, it is fucking, you get goosebumps. It is bone chilling, right? The way they played live, right? And it's something I never forgot. So I think Takeoff's funeral is going to be along those lines. It's going to be in the State Farm Arena. They were giving out free tickets, just like Nipsey's funeral. But the tickets are out. They're completely, I can't say sold out because they weren't being sold, but they're completely done. There's no ticket left for Takeoff's funeral. So if you didn't get your ticket or you ain't got a hookup, you will not get in there. You're going to have to watch from the sidewalk. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there. Okay. So it's going to be huge. Again, I'm still surprised that there have been no arrests. I'm surprised. And let me tell you this, Quavo or the label, and I don't like pocket watching, right? It's your fucking money. Do what you want. But I don't understand why Quavo hasn't come out and say, I got 100 fucking grand for whoever turns the motherfuckers in. I don't know. I'm not a wealthy woman yet. You listening, universe? I'm not a wealthy woman yet, but I would think it's a no-brainer. If I can afford a diamond chain that costs $100,000, or a ring that costs $200,000, or I can afford a Bentley, or I fly in my private jets, why wouldn't I put up at least 50K or 100K to find my best friend's killers? I would think it's a no-brainer. What you think? You think, close as it is to the holidays, if Quavo or anybody in Takeoff's family that can afford it were to put up 50K or 100K for them killers to be turned in, them killers would be turned in the hour after. Their mama would turn them motherfuckers in to get that Christmas money. Okay? Their daddies, their grandmama would turn those bastards in to get that holiday money. And it wouldn't take much. I'm saying big numbers, 50K, 100K. It wouldn't even take that where those guys are from, where the shooters were from. Because we know what kind of neighborhoods those shooters were from, right? So imagine offering 50K. That's on the low end. Shit, 25K. You can go as low as 10K. People want their Christmas money. Okay, people want their Thanksgiving money. You offer 10K, and that's super, super low ball. But imagine 50K or 100K. I want Takeoff's killers. Here's 100K. Here's 50K. Their mamas will drop them motherfuckers off in front of the J.O. So I'm wondering why there hasn't been a reward. Like, they got these guys on camera. There is visual. You know what they have on. You know what they look like physically. Forgive the ghetto bird. Did you hear that? Ooh, that chopper sounded close. Anyway, so I'm surprised that no one's put up any reward money. That's crazy to me. What's up, POP? I see you. So that's crazy to me that there's been no reward money, and we already all the way up to the funeral. The funeral's on the 11th. Where's the reward money? I'm sure a lot of rappers are going to show up, you know what I mean, with their jewelry, coming out with their shades, you know what I mean, walking to the Takeoff funeral. They're all going to have on their fucking Gucci and Versace shades, and they're going to show up, you know what I mean, in their Louis Vuitton suits and shit. You know what I'm saying? They're going to show up in their red bottom. You know how they do? You know how they do. They're gonna show up in their red bottoms with the Gucci shades and the Louis Vuitton shirts. You know, the chicks are gonna show up in their fur coats. Everybody's gonna be making their hip hop appearance, right? You know what that funeral is gonna look like. You know what they hitting for. They're gonna have their jewelry on. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop is gonna pull up. So you motherfuckers can't put up 50K to find Takeoff's killer. None of you have thought of that. Like, I'm in no way, shape, or form invested in this story or related to that boy. And I'm even thinking about that. How is it the fuck that none of you have thought about that? How is it? When just a couple hours before Takeoff's death, Quavo and him were at a fucking jeweler. A jeweler that you'd have to spend 6 figures to walk out with a fucking bracelet or a chain. So y'all got money. How is it that I'm thinking about that? But you're going to see. Keep your eyes and ears open. Watch how star-studded and blingy that funeral is about to be, okay? It's going to be the hottest ticket in town to be seen over there, you know what I mean, at the State Farm Arena walking in. You'll see how they pull up. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. You're going to see how star-studded that funeral is. Yet, the two shooters, they're hiding somewhere. And how much money do those shooters have? Because we all know it takes a lot of money to hide. You think they left the country? You think they're in Cuba right now? You know, so stay tuned for that funeral. You'll see what it looks like. You will see. All right, guys. I think that we can get into tonight's topic. I talked your ear off enough. I'm dropping the link on this very early before I give you what I think, because I want the guys to come up and talk about this, okay? Or if you're a woman who wants to come up and talk about this, and you can stick to the topic. If you're a woman, I love you ladies. Y'all are my favorite, even though y'all never fucking come up here. I still appreciate you. But if you're a woman who's going to come up tonight, I don't want to hear whataboutism. Don't tell me what you went through with your mama or your daddy. I know you went through shit. I went through shit. We all went through shit. You know how I do. I got truth. You got truth. Everybody fucking got truth in the world. Everybody got truth. It's like religion. Which one suits you, right? So if you're going to come up tonight, let's stick to, are we too hard on Black men? Are we too hard on Black men? And when I started this topic, I was thinking society. Is society too hard on Black men? But we are part of society. We all have our experiences with Black men. We are related to Black men. Some of us have Black children or have Black children. We have friends, and we're all in this community. So are we too hard on Black men? Because as far as society, well, society is hard on any person of color. Any person of color. They're hard on immigrants and Mexicans and Jamaicans and Black people and Latin people, Puerto Rican people and Honduran people and Haitian people and African people. Society in general is just hard. If you have any shade of melanin within your DNA, society is hard in general. But I'm talking about we. Are we too hard on Black men? Are there too many topics where we're talking about what Black men aren't constantly, consistently? What they aren't. They're deadbeats. They're not this. They're not that. And they don't fuck. They can't rule the community. They're dead. You know what I mean? Let's talk about this. Are we too hard on Black men? With a little caveat. Or are they just not suited for leadership? Ouch, ouch, oh, fuck. Are they not up to the task? Are we asking too much of Black men? Are we too hard on them? Are we asking too much? What are we doing? Before I start, and as I drop this link, I'm going to play the video that touched me. Like little Scrappy touched me when I saw this video. And, you know, we scroll these timelines all the fucking time. Nothing touches us. Everybody's acting the monkey ass fool on these timelines, right? We don't pay too much. This is another idiot. But this one paused me. This one paused me, and I want to share it with you guys. Okay, so this is the video. Take a listen. I'll play it twice if I need to. But I want to stay on topic. Are we too hard on Black men? Okay. What's up, Martel Duval? I like when people type my name all capital letters with the little fire emojis. I see you. All right. So I'm going to play this video for you in case you guys have not seen it. Don't forget to support in the chat or my Cash App. Because look at all this. Look at all this, right? Live and direct, bitch. All right. So here's the video. And I know I'm going to have to play it more than once. And I will drop the link while I am playing this. And we're going to stay on topic, people. Even if you try to go off topic, I'm going to bring you right back. I'm going to be the topic police tonight. Here we go. Check this out.
Why I'm like I am with her?
Because of what you saw me go through. I didn't know.
No, I saw your lifestyle. I grew up in a whorehouse. I grew up in a trap house.
Yep.
So all I knew was that. You know what I'm saying? And I love you because you held it down and like you did what you had to do. But imagine you never had.
Child point of view.
I can't even go to her. She hard. I can't go to you hard. So I'm on the concrete. My granddaddy ain't that hard.
Wow.
Mama D, go hug your child. He hurt. I'm hurt.
You hurt? Hold on, you hurt?
He hurt.
Go blame that on your mama. Go blame that on your daddy. Go blame that on your mama and your dad. I ain't do nothing to you. I'm your mother child.
Ouch. So I'm going to play that again because, you know, like in any case, I'm a fan of law. I'm a groupie. I'm a law groupie, and I have a couple of friends that are attorneys, and they've showed me some video, right? A surveillance video of like murders and shit like that. And they have to watch it over and over and over and over and over and over again because every time you watch evidence, right, you always see something different or you hear something different. So you just can't hear it once. I'm going to play it one more time. I'm going to drop the link and I'm going to play it one more time so you can hear it again. Listen to what he is telling his mother. That's Little Scrappy, for those of you that don't know, part of a reality show called Love and Hip Hop. And his mother, Mama D, who's been a staple, even though she's, you know, twice the age of all the kids there. But, you know, those shows pretty much have all kinds of age ranges in their cast. I'm going to play this again for you. Play this one more time. Listen before I start dissecting it. Okay. Listen to her reaction. Listen to what he's saying. Okay.
Why I'm like I am with her?
Because of what you saw me go through. I didn't know.
No, I saw your lifestyle. I grew up in a whorehouse. I grew up in a trap house.
Yep.
So all I knew was that. You know what I'm saying? And I love you because you held it down and like you did what you had to do. But imagine you never had.
Child point of view.
I can't even go to her. She hard. I can't go to you hard. So I'm on the concrete. My granddaddy ain't that hard.
Wow.
Mama D, go hug your child. He hurt. I'm hurt.
You hurt? Hold on, you hurt?
He hurt.
Go blame that on your mama. Go blame that on your daddy. Go blame that on your mama and your dad. I ain't do nothing to you. I'm your mother child.
Whoa. Okay. And if you guys need to see that later, if you guys need to see that later, let me know and I'll play it. So there's a lot to unpack there regarding my topic. Are we too hard on Black men? Big Thunder says love and hip hop equals menstrual show. Do you mean minstrel? Do you mean minstrel? I don't think it's menstrual. But okay, Victor, I see you. So there's a lot to unpack there. And I dropped a link for anybody who wants to come up. Did it go down? Yes. Okay, the link is in there if you guys want to come up and chit chat with me. There's a lot to unpack there. First of all, we see it's generational, right? The mother is interesting because she has no reaction until she's offended, right? She has no reaction to this man crying and pleading and trying to explain to her what I had to go through when I was a kid. I grew up in a trap house. I grew up in a whorehouse. That sounds like a fucking nightmare for a tiny child who doesn't know anything about the world or life or anything, right? And he's seeing his mother get hoed out and drugs and people doing dope and sex and this and that, right? He grows up, he's a man, now he's trying to have a relationship with a woman, but he still has all them engrams and all of that embedded in his head and his psyche and his soul, because you know that's how children are. We mold them. They're little sponges. They see and hear everything. Though we think they don't, they see and hear everything, okay? And they internalize it because they're children. They don't have anybody really to talk to. Stay in a child's place or stay out of grown folks' business, right? That's how we talk to children. So we have Scrappy spilling his guts to his mother, and she is like, oh, okay. I found that interesting. Whereas any of us who have children, if our children are breaking down like that and crying and telling us, look, this is what I saw growing up, this is how I feel, we would break down with them, I would think. Because it would be a reality check to your parenting, right? Now, parenting is fucking hard. Let's be clear. Parenting is hard. A lot of us are trying to figure life out when we have these children. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't fully prepare to have children. So our children are with us on the hip while we're doing this, trying to figure life thing out. And it's really the worst place a child can be. This is why I stress, don't get married and don't have kids. Go out there, do you. Because the majority of people are fucked up. Let's keep it a buck. The majority of the population is fucked up. And I recommend that you travel the world, get therapy if you need it. Don't get married. Don't attach a woman or a man to your fucked upness. And definitely don't attach a child to that, right? But fucking feels good. And unfortunately, fucking makes babies. A lot of people just want to fuck. They don't want kids, but kids come with the fucking, right? Gosh darn. How could something that feels so good give you this burden of a child? That's just how life is, right? But there's plenty of birth control out there for men and women. So the worst thing for a child to be like a Scrappy is with a woman who, I'm in a trap house. I'm fucking around. I'm doing this. I'm selling pussy. I'm dick. And here's this innocent little child on her hip, right? So while she's going through a shutdown, she's no longer in a trap house. His mother's no longer selling ass or pussy or heroin, no longer hanging out with dope fiends, right? But now he's grown. So it's great that she's this new woman. But all this damage was done to this little black boy, right? Now he has to carry that while she's, figured it out and she's older. And she's like, that was back in the day. But when you see a man, Scrappy's a full-grown man, when you see a man pouring his guts out like that and his mother just standing there with no reaction, says a lot. And it's gotta hurt. It says a lot, right? And we're seeing this generational thing because at the end he was arguing. She was like, well, I'm hurt too. And he's like, then blame your mother. Then blame your father. So it's generational. I'm sure her parents failed her and she failed Scrappy. So on and so on and so on. And so someone decides I'm gonna break this generational curse shit. Right? I'm gonna break it. It ends with me. Luckily, a lot of us have done that, right? It ends with me. The dysfunction ends with me. But even we don't have it all the way perfect. We're still trying to figure it out. But I'm telling you, that is why I stress, and people think I'm crazy. Do not bring people or children into your fucked upness. If you know you need therapy, if you know you didn't grow up well, and you know you like to fuck, protect yourself. Because we all like fucking, right? Protect yourself. Don't add a struggle buddy to that, and don't add a struggle parenting to that. Because while we're trying to figure it out, these kids are on our hip and they're watching everything and they're listening to everything. Then you got Scrappy on Love and Hip Hop yelling at a woman who acts like she don't give two fucks about him, which was bizarre to me. That she wasn't even moved by what he was saying. And then there's another layer to it when Scrappy looked at his girlfriend and said, I can't go to her, she's too hard. I can't come to you, you're too hard. And that touched me because I've been that too hard woman as well. I've been that too hard. Like, don't fucking bring me no fucking sob story. I'm out here trying to make it too. Fuck off. You got it easier than me. We're hard. Women of color are fucking hard. Right? So does Scrappy have a point? Where's the soft place for him? Are we too hard on Black men? I ask again, or are they just not up for the task? Do we expect too much? Or are we too hard? Are we too hard? And I'm talking to men too, because men are also hard on men. So I see Tristan and Haran backstage. I'm going to bring them up. What's up, my fellas?
Hello. You knew we was coming for this one.
I know. I was like, here they come. Here they come. I saw early in the chat, I already saw a couple of, but women and but women in society. But I want to stay on topic. I really want to stay on topic. I promise on another day we could talk about how hard women have it. I'm a fucking woman. I know how hard women have it. But I wanted to stay on this. Why was Idris crying?
Oh, this was at this is about I believe Ghana. He was at a Ghana conference. He was talking about the tragedies that go on there that because of Europeans, I believe. So, but it fits.
Okay, so before you guys comment, I want to highlight Maya Moon's comment. She says, I have no problem with Black men until they rant about how alpha they are, claiming they are the chosen ones, but don't compete with other men. So Maya Moon is already firing shots. What do you think?
Well, I go first because Haran will be more will have more intellect than I will on this topic. My thing is we have to forget there's a percentage. Little Scrappy is in that outlier percentage. A lot of people in his situation don't make it out to where he's at. And is it hard? Yeah. But at the end of the day, these are the cards we were dealt that we know, we are consciously aware that we know are the issues. And is society difficult? Yes, but it's not difficult to do the right thing and to be better. Little Scrappy made it out. We can't forget that. So he is able to deal with that. To the men now, a lot of them can't deal with that. And what do? They come on YouTube and just extend that toxicity. So it's very difficult for society to sit there and say, are we too hard? Yes, society is too hard, but our reactions to it don't make it better. So it almost balances, it almost cancels out. Like, is society too hard? Yes, but our actions, it kind of cancels out any kind of empathy or sympathy we trying to get, in my opinion.
Okay, so it sounds like a rock and a hard place.
Exactly, but nobody wants to. Little Scrappy can have that conversation, but you see how he had a conversation in the middle of a club. We can't we or we have to have these on YouTube panels. We can't just have these conversations behind closed doors, so we don't have to make a spectacle. So we can say, hey, Tristan talked to Jen behind the scenes. Tristan cried his eyes out, but nobody knows, and we can move forward, and I can build on that. But now it's a spectacle, and now we do it on YouTube. It's a spectacle now. Now this is forever out there. Now I'm forever criticized. Now my anger doubles down because okay, you coming at me for being emotional. If it's F me, it's F you.
Mm,
It will always cancel out, and that's an issue.
mhm. Well, I want to welcome Miss Polly. Hello, beautiful lady, and brother Ish. Um,
Hello.
hi. So I'll pass the mic to Haran. Haran, I don't know how much of my intro you heard, but I know you had some strong opinions on this. What do you think? Are we too hard on black men?
No,
No.
uh, I don't think. Actually, I don't think we're hard enough.
Ah, jeez. All right. Continue.
Well, first of all, I would like to say, based on the video,
Hmm.
toxic femininity is a real thing,
Okay.
but it's real. It's basically futile to discuss it because there'll be no accountability.
Let's
There'll
discuss
just be a lot
it.
of,
Let's not talk about when I'm toxic. Haran, come on.
I mean, you know what? Oh, wait. Oh, I mean, let me finish.
I'll leave.
It's futile to discuss it because there'll be no accountability. It'll just be a lot of feces throwing, sides taken, and then we'll be right back to where we are in the from the beginning. So it's wasted energy. So I just say let that be whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um, I think that I think that right now where the black man is, I think the black man needs to not be too concerned with women and a lot of the petty subjects that are going on in society right now.
Okay.
The black man needs a stronger sense of self right now, knowledge of who he is and his principles outside of relationships, outside of how society perceives him. A lot of our problems stem from our obsession with pleasing women, our mothers, and how many of us have, absolutely no concept of who we are as a person because we define ourselves by what women think of us, by what our families think of us, what their perceptions are. Well, and when you ask some of these brothers, well, brother, what do you think? These people look at you with a blank stare because they never really sat down and really thought about it. So we're basically easily swayed, and and made to react on command like pit bulls by these people who are literally, subconsciously pulling our strings and they're manipulating us. There's a lot of emotional manipulating going on. So essentially, there's a number of things that we need to do, and I'll wrap up after that. One of the first things we need to do as black men, first of all, stop searching for unconditional love. It's stupid. You sound like an idiot. Okay, there's no such thing outside of your mama, and in a sense, even that's conditional to some degree. Stop doing that. Detach yourself emotionally from the politics and power dynamics. Be the gender wars, race conflicts, and understand that at its core, none of this is really personal. It's really just all business. People are just fighting for their pieces of the pie, and you have to come to the table with a degree of stoicism. Create boundaries and be emphatically clear on what you will and will not tolerate in your space. Black men do not enforce hard lines on anyone. You need to be clear about this is what you won't do. This is what we want, will or will not tolerate. And if anyone, man or woman, doesn't comply with that, you get rid of them. Far too many brothers are afraid to lose women. She can be replaceable. There's no such thing as an irreplaceable man or a woman. Okay, what she told you, or what anyone attempted to try to convince you. Another thing too, consequences. Consequences at times must come before compassion. People will test your limits, and you have to be prepared to make an example of somebody in order for people to show you, for people to understand where you stand. And companionship is cool. It's necessary, but it shouldn't be at the center of your world. Okay, at its very core, it's a nice to have. It's a great motivator. But there's been many a great man who has gone out there and conquered without the presence of a woman in his life. Okay, you don't need a woman in your life to go out there and lead and be the best, version of yourself. You know, in a lot of aspects, you know, I mean, love is overrated. But that's another topic for, you know, I mean, another time.
Okay, so
And the last thing I just want brothers to understand is that
mhm.
there's no such thing as fair. There's only conquerors and the conquered. That's it.
So two things. It sounds to me like you're saying black men are usually just worried about all the wrong shit. That's the first thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then the second thing is you said they should be stoic, right? But what do you think
Yes.
about the saying? What do you think about the saying? You can tell the value of a man by the state of his family and his wife, right? If
Okay.
a man is going to be stoic and just take emotion out of it, just in layman's terms, take emotion out of it, then isn't it okay for them to want more of him? For it to be
Yeah.
conditional? Don't those two things exist? If I'm going to be conditional, my love is going to be conditional with my man, right?
Right.
Then doesn't that marry be stoic and stop being emotional and get on out there and bring the fucking money back and bring the buffalo back and stop being in your feelings?
Let me be clear here. You can show a degree of care to your family. Of course, you know, you're not going to be hard and cold blooded with a baby. You know what I mean? What idiot does that? You know what I mean? You can be you can be all of these things to your family, but your goal should be more so to be respected and admired rather than really loved. Because love is very seasonal. You
Mm,
know, it's very conditional. You
mm,
know what I mean? Most of the time, when people admire someone and they respect someone, it takes something really heavy for them to lose that respect for that person. You know what I mean? A motherfucker could grow out of love from you within 6 months. You know what I mean? That's just life. You know. So as long as your family is taken care of to the degree where they you know they have a solid home, you know what I mean, they're emotionally stable and so on and so forth, and you're giving them what they need in order for you to be respected and admired, I don't see any issue in that.
okay. Miss Polly, what say you, lady?
Yes, hey there. I will say I do believe that they they get it a little harder than everyone else. I will say that, and I think it's just because, like you said, it's kind of like society has put black males on a pedestal of being so masculine. Like I do feel that way. I feel like even when they're compared to other races, let's just say, you will say if you were in a room, like I even like, for example, if I go on a date with a black male, my partners act different if it was a white male. They don't really feel any, there's like nothing. Like even when I've dated, it's just like, oh, just a white guy.
Mhm.
Okay. But if it was a black male, that's a whole nother energy. I feel like they even think to some degree, this is my opinion, that we as a society will say, you know, black men are supposed to be the manliest of the manliest, the strongest of the strongest. They're the hardest of the hardest. No one's ever going to top them on the masculine scale. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear people be like, oh, when they demasculate men, they usually, when it comes to black males, they'll say, oh, they put them in a dress so they can demasculate them, so they can bring them down a notch, so they're kind of on our level, so they're not as masculine. But even when that is, they seem still masculine. I find it interesting, but it just seems like they're just more masculine than everyone else. Even with a cultural touch too, like, you know, you see them being more affectionate. Other races, you see Spanish guys, they'll like, they're really touchy. White people are real touchy. Males, they're real touchy. They're real like, let me get close to you. They're really handsy with each other. You ain't gonna ever see two black men in somewhere like being overly touchy, overly comforting. You won't see that, but you'll see that in other races. I think they are given the okay more than black males. Now, who made that? I'm not sure. Maybe their parents or anything, but even for like my sons, which is funny is that sometimes like they're getting to teenage age and they're going to play football and things like that, and they'll say things like, oh, what's his name? They talk real weird, like they'll like talk about my genitals, or he's like, I was like, yeah, most Caucasian guys do that. They'll say, oh, look at his, they play around with each other that is on a level where if you were black, that would seem, homosexual or inappropriate. You just draw that line. So I think there are even in those kind of aspects, make sure I'm kind of getting that off there. When it's cultural wise, these other races can be more and I'm not trying to say feminine, but in a more non-masculine situations, and it's okay. But if a black male was to do that, then something's entirely wrong. So I do think sometimes they're put on a pedestal to be more masculine than any other race in a male, in males than everyone else. So I think they also get it harder. So anything that happens, it's like, you're not being a man, you're not being man enough, you're not stepping up. And it could be the same situation and it's someone else. And it's like, oh, he just had a mental breakdown. It's okay, give him a hug. If it was a black male, oh, you need to toughen it up, suck it up, and do what you got to do. It's two different things. I just think they kind of have it a little harder, and expectation is a little higher when it comes to being a black male than any other males. Yeah.
Woo! Woo! You said a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. Because, in my head, as you're talking, I'm like, check, because I'm attracted to black men, but my number one complaint about black men is that they're not affectionate. And I've dated more than one, even got married to one, but that is my number one complaint. Aside from they ain't have no money, aside from that, they are not fucking affectionate. And I know this, we're probably going to use this all fucking night, but I'm saying my experience, they are not fucking affectionate. I am Puerto Rican. We kiss each other every time we say hello to cousins. Hey, mommy, hi. We're hugging. We're rubbing each other's hair. We're pushing each other around. From childhood, we're very handsy, like you said. So it's a culture shock. When I date a black man, I'm like, you don't hold hands, you don't hug, you don't kiss aside from when you're fucking. Like, you don't, the forehead kisses, the playing with the hair. Like, if I could mix the perfect man, he'd be black with the sensibilities of a Puerto Rican guy, right? With a Latino. That is one of my biggest fucking issues. So that is very, very true. And what you said was so fucking powerful, because it's like, where does it come from, right? I think way back to the fucking plantation, where black men were looked at like these wild beings, these bucks that had to be broken. When we think about that, we think about horses, we think about wild animals, something that's so wild, so strong, you have to break them, right? And I think that that's followed them, hundreds of years fucking later. And also the point you made about, oh, you put him in a dress, he's emasculated. But white comedians fucking do it, Latin comedians fucking do it, and they get to be men after. White actors can play Brokeback Mountain, each other. And Ryan Gosling or the other guy that was in it, they're still hotties in Hollywood. But you put a black actor in that role, and we stamp him gay for life. Oh, he's gay for life, because ain't no straight black man going to play a gay guy. So you're right. There is this pressure for them to be the strongest, baddest, biggest. Some people in the chat say, stop calling yourself a king. I think that's overcompensation, right? I know, Brother Ish, you're probably going to touch on this because you said it before. Well, it's better we call each other kings and queens than the other derogatory terms. But I think that if you run around calling yourself a king, like I said, people are going to expect you to act like one. If I walk around all fucking day long, again, a vegan doesn't eat meat. If I walk around all fucking day long talking about I'm a vegan, right? And you see me eating a bison burger like I had earlier, which was delicious, you're going to call me on it. So if I'm walking around, I'm a queen, I'm a king, people are going to expect some sort of, royalty or stature or status from you. But they use those words loosely. Anyway, going back to what you said, I do think there is a pressure on black men to have the biggest dicks, to have the toughest skin, to be the tallest, to be the strongest. There is that pressure where they don't get to be soft. And we saw it in the video. Scrappy said, I can't go to you, you're too hard. I can't go to you, you're too hard. Like, where do these black men go if they're supposed to be, the elite of masculinity? And they aren't. I can tell you, I've seen many a black man cry And they aren't, and they sure as hell don't have big dicks. Please, people, stop the madness. On that note, I will throw the mic to Brother Ish. Thank you so much, Miss Polly, for that, because those are important points. Brother Ish, what do you got to say?
Yeah, you should be quiet.
I've been waiting for that one. I so thank you. I appreciate you. There's one more I got for you too. That's topical, Tristan. So I really want to send that.
Tell Tristan that I was
I'm gonna send you the link in the chat, and you can kind of find it. But it's the one where the minister talks about the women's mouths are like snake pits, and you know. So we'll start with a couple of points because Jen, you touched on a point that I was going to actually start on, and that we have to consider history. Our history, our masculinity was taken away from us during slavery. When you have, beyond any kind of sexual abuses that took place, we're talking about the fact that you had no control of the woman that you procreated with. That if the master wanted to come into your house and have sex with your wife, he would tell you to leave and then he would do so. That's a stripping of one's sense of manhood right there, because he is no longer a protector. The master is also the provider. He feeds your family. So there are areas of our masculinity that was stripped away 400 years ago. And then it was reinforced during Jim Crow by calling us boy. Overtly. And if we challenged that, we were lynched and we were murdered, and we couldn't speak over a certain tone. We couldn't laugh publicly. There were aspects of our manhood that was constantly under attack. So from those sets of experiences, you say, well, what is the purpose of all this? Or where's the valuation of all that? Because there is some valuation of it. And you can look at it from scripture very quickly and say, in scripture, it says in the book of Isaiah 48:10, behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. So the affliction that we are going through in this purification process, through this trial of pain and trauma, is one to purify us to not be oppressors, to not be individuals who do this kind of negativity and calamity to one another, and to see the value of one another. There's the dynamic of that we're going through this whole process of learning, because I always wondered, why are we going through this? What is the sociological value of it? So this is my perspective, and that's where this is coming from. That certain aspects are being extracted out of us sociologically to bring us into another position of leadership. And that's where this gray area that you're looking at right now, where men are struggling and striving back and forth to redefine what is manhood, to determine what that is. Because when it was stripped from us from one period of time, now we're doing a lot of things to overcompensate to figuring it out, to where you have the clownosphere, the manosphere, and that there's this whole attempt to redefine what manhood is, and that is kind of what we're going through. So when you say, are we too hard? There's a process in some of this hardness that we're experiencing, and that it is cultivating something out of us, and it is even drawing up and having this conversation where a man now can be emotional and masculine at the same time, and go through his trauma at the same time, and identify and then call out those who were, I shouldn't say accused, but who were responsible for that, without there being anger or vitriol, but pointing out the pain that they inflicted and the journey that they have to go through now that they have evolved through a process. So the language and the are women too hard? I think women have to learn a more skillful process, I think, is the issue. It's not necessarily that they're too hard, because there's a need for the protection and provision that your nature as a woman is calling for. There's a need to say, hey, this is not here. This does not exist. And I'm yearning for this man to exist in my community. And my community wouldn't be in such disarray, because when men are in the community, there is no crime, there is no drugs, there is no violence, there is no abuse, because other men check other men. Other men check the environment. That is what men do. Males go along to get along or survive or dodge and bob and weave. So what is needed is a more skillful way in dealing with men versus, being like the minister says, you can be hard on a man and you can beat him down and beat him down and beat him down and beat him down with negative reinforcement. And he's fighting a battle on two fronts. He's fighting a world that does not respect him. A world does not give him the fruits of opportunity or the economics of opportunity. And so what he's left with is the trash that exists in the scheme, that exists. Crime does not exist. Crime is, and I heard a man say today, crime is a societal issue and society's fault, because economics and education have not been provided for certain people in the community. And that's where crime becomes a necessity, because you're trying to survive. These are actions of survival. And a woman is not, like, prime example, a woman is not going to sell her body until she's down to a point of either where she's been abused repeatedly, or she is down to where she has to feed herself or her child, and the only commodity that she has available to her is her body. So when you say, there's a wealth of predators out there to receive it.
You're a little all over the place. No, it's okay. I just want to bring you back. When you say that women should be more skillful, right, in the way they handle Black men, give me an example. What does more skillful look like? Is it go get a fucking job, or hey honey, can you go get a job? Like, what's the limit when you're not, what's the word, infantilizing a man? Like, because there's a thin line between, speak words of life into him and coddling a man like he's a child, right? So what side is too hard? What's the line to you? How would a woman be more skillful? What's it look like to you?
Okay, prime example. It may not come from her mouth. It may come from the scenario she may create. She may leave a flyer in the kitchen next to his favorite food to eat, that job opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Or work. Would you choose work as the example? She may have a conversation with someone else, and they say, I have a job opportunity available. You say, well, my husband's looking for a job. And then you may put him in the middle of those two or that individual, and that individual may say, hey, I'm looking for somebody to go to work. Are you, what are you doing? And doesn't know that she orchestrated the conversation, orchestrated the scenario, but she created that environment for him, because he may not have the tools necessary for him to go out and just go find a job, or his spirit may not be in the same space. So that's what I'm saying. Elements of skillfulness has to be, in every situation is different, but you wanted me to give you some sort of unique examples. That's one of them. It doesn't necessarily mean that she has to be the gnat in his ear going, bzzz, get a job, get a job, get a job, get a job. Like that doesn't always work. It's not always effective, because if it was, it would easily be done. So there has to be just skillful approaches in relationship to a situation, so that when it doesn't become confrontational and or coddling. Because no, you do not want to coddle and nurse a Black man in unless it's, certain conditions or circumstances, grief and, things like that. But, ultimately, that's not what you want to do. You want to still have that man feel empowered,
Okay,
and
the only thing is,
with small accomplishments, and I'll close on this point, with small accomplishments, supporting those small accomplishments. Sometimes that's another tool. You're not calling him, but if he just did, I went out there and I did this and I feel real bad, but that was good. You got out there, soldier. Get out there and go out there and do it again. Like something like that. Or if he did something, there's a reward that's attached to it, whether it's his favorite meal or a massage. And say, I know you had a hard day. I know you're looking forward to getting back at it tomorrow. I'm right there with you, baby. And then that's it. You see what I'm saying? It's just strategic. It doesn't have to coddle, but it can be supportive. It can be his best cheerleader.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted an example is so we could dissect this, but that example respectfully sounded like coddling. Like when you're talking about an adult, and I want us to learn and be better after this, but hopefully, but it sounded like coddling. Like, why does an adult woman have to tell an adult male that he has to go out and get a job? Without money, you cannot survive. And to me, like all the examples you gave sounded like how I would talk to my son or my grandson, and the cheering, like, hey, you did it, good job. That's like how you speak to a child, right? I would say, let me add to what you said. I would say if the man on his own is already going out there and getting a job, and let's say the job doesn't pay a lot of money, I think a woman should be skillful in celebrating that, especially if a woman wants to be with a man. If a woman wants to be single, she don't have to give a fuck. But if a woman wants to be coupled up with a man and that's the man she chose, then she has to understand she signed up for a man who's not wealthy, who's not the smartest, you know what I mean, person in the group, fine. But I think it should look more like, because I don't like the idea of women getting to the habit of raising grown men, right? Because that's not beneficial for either side. If he goes out and gets a job and it's just manager at McDonald's, he went out, he took the initiative to go out and get that job. I think shit like that should be celebrated. Like, you're not working corporate America making $500K, but you took the initiative to go out and get that job. I think when you get to the point where suggesting like, hey, babe, you think you should get a job this week? Then you're talking to a child. So that's why I'm saying it's a thin line. It's a thin line, and we have to be careful about that line, because, and then the other thing you said, like, hey, if I have a friend who could possibly hook my man up with a job, you have to understand that women get turned off by that. We saw it happen. What was it? Was it the movie Soul Food? It was one of the movies where it's like the woman via a friend that has more than her husband or her man helps her man. Then that guy is the guy that helped. He's like the power guy, and then he could throw it in that guy's face later. And that's tornado meets volcano, because now you're treating your man like a child. Like, baby, this guy I work with is hiring. Maybe you want to go see about that job. Now, again, that's what I'm saying. There's a thin line, but I will pass the mic on someone, whoever wants to talk about either what Ms. Polly said or what Ish said.
I have a few things. One of the main things that I wanted to speak on is that there's a very sick and disturbing social dynamic between black women and black men, and then there's this mother-son dynamic. You know what I mean? I've seen, these women speak to their men as if they're children, and these men behave and flex as children when they're with these women, such as laying up with a woman, laying up in her house, refusing to get a job or not being as aggressive about, getting a job, borrowing the goddamn car, you're on a curfew, goddamn. Look, listen, if your name ain't on the lease or the deed, you live with your mama. I don't care how that sounds. Okay, if your name is not attached to the property that you claim to live in, you live with your mother. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm very adamant about brothers separating themselves away from these dynamics and leaning on themselves right now. There's far too much, there's far too much need for a crutch for too many brothers. Brothers need to really go out there. They need to cut their teeth more. They need to really find who they are, and they need to state their claim in the world. And yes, be a lot more astute and willing and ready to compete against other men.
Can I just say something just to help what you're saying? Just for to help. Recently, my son, 15-year-old came to me. He's been dating this girl, and they were unfortunately getting too sexual, and I had to shut it down and stop that. But when I did that, he came to me and he said, "Hey, listen, I feel he goes, he's been doing good. He got like a 4.7 or something like that in school. He's really motivated. And he came to me and he goes, "Ma, I want to tell you something." I said, he's like, I don't feel motivated. And I said, "What you mean I'm motivated?" He's like, "Well, I dress up, I go to school, look nice," and which he was. I mean, he was styling. He got jewelry on, everything. He was going to school, feeling good. He's like, "I feel good." He's been working out. And they did a lot of time together, FaceTime and stuff like that. I caught him, falling asleep there on their little phone, whatever. And he basically said, since we asked for, like, remove the contact and everything, and him not to date her, he basically was saying he didn't feel motivated to do any of the stuff he was doing before. And that's when I had to kind of tell him, I said, well, this is why, when I asked him, I didn't want him to date. I said, because you've attached everything you do to someone else, and you need to attach it to yourself. Because now, since you're not together, you can't spend that much time together. You see her at school. You no longer find it worth the while. The motivation was her. I said, you need to motivate yourself for what you want, your goals. And he was really like, oh, yeah, maybe. I said, you look nice to go to school because you want to look nice, because you want people to think that you take care of yourself, not because you just want her to say you look good today. Because now that motivation was taken from him. So I'm trying to help him move. And I said, that's why one of the reasons I don't want you to date, because you haven't got to the point where you're doing this self-motivation on your own yet. So that could be true for a lot of people. I can see that in just someone who's 15. So imagine someone who's, getting up there in their 30s almost. That definitely could be an issue.
You did the absolute right thing. 20 years from now, he is going to thank you for that moment. Let me explain something. Men need incentive, okay? Men need a certain cookie to be kept away from them in order for them to, no, serious. Men need a certain cookie to be kept away from them in order to feel the incentive, to feel the need, to feel the drive to go get that fucking cookie. You know what I mean? And now, if that is one of the main things that they used to tell um, young men and women back in the days when the subject of sex before marriage came, or essentially shacking up before marriage came. They say that, well, if he can basically get the milk without the cow, why is he gonna fucking marry you?
Well, my biggest thing is I believe all men, if you, especially 25 and younger, if you're a black man, there's no reason why you should not have your education. I think I think you should always look at your life, and if you're comfortable sleeping on a cardboard box, or shaking roaches out your cereal box, then I can't do nothing for you, and then whatever happens happens. I can't be like society's too hard, right? But everybody should have what Jen calls self-determinism, which is very difficult to do unless you have mental illness, because we're human beings. We all have to do some type of community to get something done together. Like, you have to be a genius to do things by yourself. But I do believe us as black men in this country, I'll say in this country, in America, you have to realize you got to do a lot of shit by yourself, and it's okay to do it by yourself, but you should be celebrated for actual things, not because you woke up black. I it's it's tough to say and it's hard to say, but it's too many of us where they like somebody said, stop calling ourselves kings and queens. Yeah, stop that shit, because you're acting like savages half the time. I said, and we people forget we have a massive group of black elites who do not come in the public eye whatsoever, and I think that's a problem. And you see they don't defend us, right? It's always people who grew up rough that are defending, you know the black celebrities and stuff like that. And that's my issue. Like, they're like, we don't when I haven't heard anything from not one black elite about any of the stuff that's going on. I said that should be a clear indicator of there are bigger things outside than these celebrities and stuff like that. Every black man needs to focus on their education because you need to prove we're in a litigious society as well as a microwave society. A piece of paper means everything. That degree, that diploma, that certificate proves everything, proves your value. You just can't sit there and say, I am the next Diddy. They don't care. What can you do? You have to show it. And if you're not going to show it, but you're going to punch somebody in the face because he touched the booty hole, we got listen. Nothing we can do for you. Just get some self value, get some moral currency, and that's what you have to do. You can't. It's not going to happen overnight. That's. I think that's what we're missing. Everybody wants it to happen yesterday, and it's not. Like you have to put in work. That's basically what it is.
I totally
Jen,
agree. And to
Jen.
go,
So
go ahead,
so can I respond really quick?
Yes, that
So we have to take. So I agree with our panelists and what everyone is saying here, but we have to also take in consideration. We're speaking on there are different tiers of levels of issues that are existing within people. So many individuals are at different levels who have self-determinism, intestinal fortitude, the whole nine. So even the examples that I gave depends on where that individual is. You may not have to be that motivator, but this is just a random example. But it's important for us to understand that many of us have a lot of trauma that we're dealing with. And again, you're talking about with the example that was given before us in the beginning of the show. He grew up in a household where his mother was it was a whorehouse, a crack house. It was, he had to, he couldn't sleep in his own room because he'd come in there and maybe somebody else was having sex with somebody else in there. And, so it was an unstable environment consistently. And so, he had the intestinal fortitude to fight through it. Whatever the motivation of, whatever the tipping point was, that was that individual. Another individual may have turned around and just went and started smoking drugs and following behind that. It just depends on the different individuals and what their makeup is, their history, and all those dynamics. Yes, it's easy to say this is what individuals should get in education, but there are far too many of us that come from legacies of no education, where education doesn't even seem like a viable tool.
what the hell?
someone turn into Superman? Like, what the fuck was that?
That was my phone. I'm sorry, that was my phone. I'm sorry.
I was like, was that Conan? I'm like, oh, what's going on? Well, I brother Ish, I agree to a point, right? But you gotta remember that's what NOI was doing, right? Where the people who were traumatized and stuff like that, the gangs and stuff like that, y'all took them in because y'all knew that. I said, but people like Little Scrappy, he is probably a 0% chance of a success story. Stories like that do not end up like that. Majority,
Absolutely.
99% of that is not really going to happen. So for stuff like that, that's what the NOI was about, and that's what the NOI did. I said, but then when things happen, things just happen, and then stuff just happened after the 60s. So I said, so you're right. You do need organizations and another community to help with that, but how many people are going to do what the NOI does? And now the NOI has power, but it's not as influential as it used to be, where these kids are getting younger and more, let's say, have more gall. They listen. They don't care if you are 8 years old or 80 years old. If they want something, they are jacking you for it. I said that's a whole different ball game with what y'all were dealing with back then. It's not like that now. I said it's hard to talk to the traumatized and the dramatics and the chaotics now because you're looked at as a piece of meat. You're not looked at as anything else. They're not gonna. It's very hard for them. Listen, they'll listen to your whole spiel. They're like, okay, I get it. Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad. Oh, you done talking? Yeah. Okay, now run me that watch. They will sit there and let you spiel, and they will rob you at the end because they have one goal in mind. I said, that's what we're dealing with now. And it's getting to the point where we have to leave people behind. That's where it's at. And it sucks to say, and that's not what the mission is about, but it's will we be better off saying, you know what, we're gonna get to our destination, and when we get there, we'll come back. That's where it has to be, and we're not getting that with today's youth. They have to be self-determined and stuff like that. But it's difficult when you have a community where it's very toxic. It's just difficult. And like you said, there's a lot of components.
Right. And I would say, being somebody that's in the field and in the streets and dealing with gang youth intervention and dealing with many different scenarios on a regular basis, I would say that you're right. There will be those individuals, and then you also have to that will, you'll speak to them and you'll drop the knowledge, and you may be able to reach in and tap into that inner individual of goodness that's there. And he may not receive that word, and he may attempt to try to run your watch. And there may be consequences to an action like that to make him a critical thinker, to not want to do something like that again. But then there are other times, when you do intercede in reaching that individual, and that's what you have to work towards. Again, there are those that are called for that level of responsibility, and there are fruits to that labor, and it is challenging working with Black people. But we are, again, historically, we are a decimated people. There's historically not a people like us right now. We don't speak our language. We don't have any sense of cultural identity, and we mirror our masters. So if that is a factor that we're working from, we have to dial back from that before we can even move, 4 steps ahead, because we're 400 years behind this white man. Give me 1 second, Jen. I got to step off, but I'll be.
All right, because I had a question for you, Brother Ish. He has to take the call. And you guys remind me of my question later, because I want to ask him on the point that Tristan made. How is the NOI going to evolve to deal with the new generation that's coming up? Because the new generation, they ain't going to hear shit about throwing on a suit and a bow tie and slinging bean pies on the highway. Like, that's not this new generation that's coming up. They're the kids that, they're listening to the little Uzi Verts and the Baby and, the Pop Smokes and stuff, and they're ready to run your watch and whatever else. The value of life to me now is it's even less than it used to be when we were growing up. So I'm curious to hear what the NOI is doing moving forward, how they're going to evolve, because I don't think them speeches are going to work like they used to. I think that's something that, it's dated. I will say that, for lack of a better word. So when Brother Ish comes back, he can answer that. So are we at the point where it's like Haran famously says, some people have to die on the vine so there's no confusion? And what does that look like? How do we leave people behind?
Everybody jump in the boat and you leave everybody behind. We need to.
What's the boat? What's the boat look like?
Well, the
That
boat actually
degree?
looks like exactly. Well, it's not necessarily only the degree. I mean, there's some
Just
Black men.
skills in
Wait 1
general.
second. Wait 1 second, Tristan. It's not just the degree itself. There's trade schools. Essentially, there are productive Black men. I don't care what the Cynthia G's in the world are telling you. No, there are productive Black men. You see, the problem is this. There's this concept that gets people twisted. It's probability versus perception. Okay. And I'm going to explain it real quick. I'm not going to get too heady with it, but let's understand this, and we can all agree to this. Most people, regardless of race or gender or group or whatever, most people are average. Can we agree on this?
Yep.
Correct. Most people are average. Now,
yeah.
let's just say the percentage of that, the equation is 50% for every single group. Let's say if we got 30 white people, right, standing right in front of us, 50% of that. All right, we chop that in half, you know what I mean, because they're the majority. That's 15 white people. We take a minority group like black people. You put 10 in the room. You chop that in half, that's 5. Now, your perception, if someone's not analyzing the situation and seeing it for what it is, your perception is that, oh, more white people are capable than black people. No, there's just more white people. Okay, there's just more white people. So the perception is it's like with Asians, like, you know, for the Chinese, for instance, the idea is that, oh, they're all so intelligent. No, there's just like a gang of these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So the probability of you having more smart people is increased because there are just more people. It's not, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's a small number of black men going to college. It's a smaller number of white men going to college too. But there's just more white guys because there's just more white guys. There's just more white people. There's not a lot of black people. So yes, there is a number of black people or black men who are productive, who are trying to do the right thing, who are looking to move forward. Why isn't everyone trying to concentrate on working with them instead of spending all our time and resources discussing people who you know, at the end of the day, a lot of these people that might just have a, you know what I mean, a genetic, you know what I mean, predisposition to be failures. There is such a thing. Some people are born losers. You want to spend up all of this, you know what I mean, all of these resources and all these ideas and all this time on a person who really, at the end of the day, they was just going to be a loser, whether or not they were white or black.
Agree. Brother Ish, since you're back, can you answer my question? Because I want to get into another question about effeminization. Sure, so my question was, going forward, what is the NOI, or how is the NOI going to evolve to deal with this new breed of, you know, young black men who are listening to the Baby and Little Uzi Vert and Pop Smoke? And because now I think it's even worse than it was before. And I was saying that these kids are not going to listen to the speeches. They don't give a damn about Farrakhan. They don't, it's not appealing to them that they stand, you know, on a highway slinging final calls in a bow tie and a suit when they could be slinging drugs, making a lot of money, when they could be famous online, when they can make a lot of money on social media, when they can make a lot of money, you know, on YouTube, with their dysfunction and their degeneracy, because dysfunction and degeneracy is now lucrative. Someone like Cardi B that comes from the gutter and be the worst, she can end up on the cover of Vogue. So going forward, what is the NOI planning to do? And is that why you branched off? Is that why the organization branched off into Scientology? Because you're trying new things to reach this new generation. Like, how's the NOI going to transition to dealing with this new breed of kid that's out now and is rich off of a YouTube channel? Like, I'm a kid in the hood. Why the fuck would I join the NOI when I'm making all this money? I'm one of the cool kids, rainbow hair. What the fuck do I need to be over there with you in a monkey suit with bow tie and final calls on the highway? For what? For why? How are you evolving? How's the NOI evolving? Because people aren't even going to fucking church anymore. This is church. YouTube is now church, as I say. So you can answer that. Thank you, Afro Universe, always supporting the show. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
So in answer to that, you know, there's a lot of young brothers in the nation that are extremely active and are doing some great works. So, you know, Reza, who's in his 20s, brother Ben X, who are now taking the teachings of the Nation of Islam to to the next phase, you know, where Brother Ben has a community building scenario that's taking place in Atlanta. And, you know, Reza is doing a lot of things, what he's doing in relationship to information and the stylization of how he communicates. There's a lot of young brothers that are active in the nation that I know personally, just even on the West Coast, but nationwide. I happen to travel a lot, so I'm very familiar with that. So the message has not changed, and the attraction where to a lot of young men who have been swayed by the streets, they find that, when you point out the reality of that life of, and we're not just talking about the internet, but just the drug, the drug dealer life and the consequences that are attached to it. Many times in the quiet of your mind, you start looking for realistic options. So within that, it's like, okay, this is not what it seems. I can't trust the people around me. I can't trust the people that I'm doing business with, and I can't trust just the entire environment. And I need to have peace of mind. Peace of mind is a greater gift than anything that money can't always buy. So you have circumstances that draw people to looking for alternative solutions, and that's what the nation has continued to present, is a different type of Black man that you can be, and having that option. And you can be a doctor or a lawyer or a former gang member and all those things, and there's somebody there to receive you. So that's the when you talk about, well, do these youth know? Well, when you bring in triple OG gangster D-Rock, and he walks in and you're like, oh my God, this guy used to be a notorious killer in my neighborhood, and he's down with the brothers now. You have it has an impact, and there's a receptivity now. So there's stratagems that have always been successful within the nation, and there's always a need innately within men and manhood for discipline. That is the one thing that is the strong point that the nation has, is that we have discipline. Every young man innately inside himself wants discipline, even if he does it in a savage, uncivilized way. They want discipline in the street gang. They want discipline. You don't steal from him, or you don't do this, or you don't do it a certain way. They want to have the discipline. We just have a more civilized, organized way of managing ourselves and disciplining ourselves, and that's the valuation. We have mothers who drop their children off and like, look, I can't do nothing with them, so can you figure out something with them? And we receive these brothers. So there's not this disconnect. I mean, we don't, all the promotion and propagation of the work that we do, it's not always out there, but there's a lot that's being done, even to where there's urban farming courses that are being given across the United States by members of the Nation of Islam. We're growing our own food. And we talk about how there's a food desert in the Black community. You'll find vacant lots where you can make arrangements where you start building these urban gardens.
Okay, so let me bring you back, because again, you're
all over the place. I mean, it's a vast scenario. So I
know, but my question was simply, now I'm talking about farming, growing tomatoes, and I'm talking about how is the NOI going to evolve, because they must evolve with the times. The world is different now. The world isn't 50 years ago. Reza Islam is in his 30s. He is not 15. Okay. I'm talking about how is the NOI going to evolve to reach the youth of today, and the way the youth of today thinks and feels and sees this. I can't imagine walking up to a 15-year-old from my neighborhood who is selling drugs, taking drugs on top of the world because he has 500K followers on Instagram, trading all that in for a bow tie and a suit and bean pies. So my question was, how is the NOI going to evolve to reach this new generation of kids that are out there and look like us? That's my question, not how many tomato farms you have. Can you answer that?
So going back to that question specifically, which I believe I answered it earlier, but I'll reiterate it. We're doing that. We've done that. Not just historically, I'm talking about
how is that? Let me ask again. How is the NOI going to evolve to reach the 15 and 16-year-old who's making a lot of money selling drugs, who's taking the Molly Percocet, who has 500K followers on Instagram and has monetized Instagram, but is very another contribution to the degeneracy of the community? How would the NOI reach this new generation of children? Not that you've done it. How is the NOI going to evolve? And don't tell me that there's no evolution, because you're now working with Scientology or Scientology methods. So give me an example, like I asked you before, an example of how to uplift a Black man. What's the example? If you don't have one, that's great. I don't want to press. But what's the example? How will the NOI evolve? Am I asking the question correctly, or am I?
Or maybe we try to say, well, what is the incentive for someone like that who's 15 and doing all this stuff and they have all these followers? What is the incentive to trade that in for the lifestyle that you're talking about?
Okay, so the option, just so we're clear, the option to, once you join the nation, you're only relegated to selling bean pies and newspapers is not what you're left with. You have individuals, like I said, Ben X, who has evolved into cryptocurrency, who's gone into internet real estate, who has many courses of study and has many other scenarios that take those who have the ingenuity to go out there and say, okay, I'm going to sell drugs, or I'm going to do this on the internet. I have this kind of money, and says, okay, now now that we see that you have these skill sets, let's change your product. You know, your product no longer has to be Percocets and Molly's and whatever. Your product now can be cryptocurrency or internet real estate. And we have Brother Ben over here who has perfected a methodology for that. And you can go deal with him directly. So there are, again, diverse scenarios that exist. That's why, you know, like I said, the nation is so diverse that whatever your interest is, whatever your skill set is, whatever your history is, we have somebody for you. Bottom line, if you have a PhD and a doctor saying, I'm not going to sell final calls and I'm not going to sell bean pies, fine. Go see Dr. Sophia or Dr. Akili, and this individual will work with you in how you can work in the health health ministry in the Nation of Islam. And we take your skills and build out behind that. So it's a constant evolutionary type of program. You know, our slogan is quick thinking, quick moving up to the modern times. So depending on where you fall depends on who's receiving you and where what pipeline of things you interact with.
Can I try to just to confirm, just to make sure we're hearing you right? Because I see Jen a little lost. Are you saying that what you basically do is you find the individual and then you basically find out what skill set they have, and then you take that, and then with that knowledge, then find a place for them in your community?
Correct. And we pair them up.
Okay.
So if you're a former gang leader, we put you with some of the former gang leaders. Or if you're a former gang member, we put you with former gang members, and they shape and mold and deal with some of the dynamics that exist. If you're a doctor, you fall into this lane over here with doctors. If you work in the film industry, the same way.
Okay, well, what happens if you just sit on the couch and you eat Cheerios and you can do a little basic math and you read, you might like, your interest may be a little bit of reading, but that's it. Maybe. But you like the YouTube. You like to go to YouTube.
You'll be selling bean pies and final calls till we figure out what is your gift and your talent, and then you can motivate and direct that direction.
So wait a minute. So let me get this clear. So you're basically saying that all the folks who out there selling bean pies and final calls, there's a bunch of dudes who all they do is eat Cheerios and watch YouTube, and you guys couldn't find a role for them. That's what you're basically saying.
I didn't hear your question. Say that again, brother.
What you're basically saying is that all the guys that I might have seen who are selling final calls and bean pies, these are the guys that basically were low-skilled workers. They were low-skilled guys. They were just like the woman basically said, Ms. Foley said, just eating Cheerios and sitting on the couch and just have basic math skills.
No, not all of them. No, but there are some that you'll see. If you see someone who does this like 24/7, this is all they do. That generally is because we haven't discovered where their gifts and talents are, or they haven't discovered where their gifts and talents are. And this is an opportunity for them to go out and develop a work ethic, to get out there and work every day, to get up in the morning, to get their money together, buy their pies from the bakery, and make their money off their pies, then come back and reinvest in themselves and continue that process, stack up their money, store their money, save their money, get a bank account, get their lives together, and give and learn a system of commerce, and then says, okay, you know, hey, I want to work with those brothers over there that do security. Okay, well then, brother, go on here and let's give that a try. Oh, I want to work with these brothers over here to do this. Let's give that a try and see what works out for you. And a lot of times you see the evolution. But yes, some of those brothers that you see that just do this day in and day out. Now, other brothers still are part. It's a part of the ministry as far as giving out the final call. The final call is our ministry. This is our way of communication. Not everybody can articulate the teachings as good as Riza Islam. So the best minister that we have is the paper. You can read it for yourself. You can gain that information as this individual is growing in knowledge and developing in knowledge and the articulation of the word. So you will see those that do sell the paper as part of their expression of faith. You know what I'm saying? That their action of faith, you know.
Let me jump in. So basically, I mean, I would think, yes, it is better for those men to be within that organization versus out selling drugs or doing drugs, because now they're believing in something and you're teaching them love of self and what have you. So I totally get it. Makes perfect sense. But let me ask you this. When you say that they're out there and they're learning money and business, can a man make a living off of selling the final call if he's doing nothing else? I'm just curious. Can he take care of a family? Can he pay his bills just selling the final call and being pious? Because I do agree it's better for him to be out there doing that than slinging rock. But can he make a living off of that?
Very few can. Very, very few. I would, like it's like finding the top rapper. There's some that they get out there and they'll sell 500 papers and 30 pies, and they've made a great deal of money that day. And then there are others that no, you got to have another source of income. So again, if you're an individual who is homeless, who was sitting on a couch surfing, and you weren't getting up every day, now somebody's like, come on, get up. Let's get out and hit the corner, brother. Let's go. And evolving that work ethic in that man, getting him up every day. And it's very laborious work, you know what I'm saying, to be out there, soliciting people who are not looking for you. You know what I mean? And then you start to develop your work ethic. You start to have a different self-esteem because now you're in a suit versus a dingy pair of clothes. It's a whole process and methodology of resurrection within the mind. So you'll see if you see a brother out there, some brothers' suits don't fit all that great, but as they evolve, they start to get better suits and they're able to, buy their own stuff. And that aspect of, the first initial, you may get one suit from a brother and says, here you go. From that point on, black man, you got to get your own. We're not going to just keep carrying you along.
Let me jump in again before you go too far away. So does the Nation of Islam benefit from recruiting these wayward, downtrodden men? Do they benefit? Or they're like Mother Teresa and they're just helping? Do they benefit? There are benefits as far as the organization within itself. Yes, the organization benefits on, certain levels, but also, the society benefits, in taking a downtrodden blight in society that wasn't doing anything and now working towards making him a productive individual. The small nomination of revenue that may be made from the selling of a paper, $1 goes to the brother, $1 goes to the purchase of the paper. You know what I'm saying? But he has to buy that paper and he has to sell that paper. And if he gets an extra donation on that paper, then he made a little extra money. But it's $1 for dollar each time with the Nation. And so that's how much the paper costs, $2?
Yes.
Okay. Hustle, damn. Okay, so I want to move on to unless somebody has a question for Brother Ish, I have a question for the panel. Okay,
what you got?
I'll move on. Very importantly, back to and thank you, Brother Ish, for sharing all of that, because I know a lot of people are like, religion. You guys know I'm an atheist, so I don't give a fuck about none of this shit. But I know it's hard, but quite naturally, people do have questions because we know within religion, the top person is always the richest. I don't care if you're Catholic, Christian, Baptist, it doesn't matter. Anyway, top person is always richest, and that's why the common folk always have a lot of questions, like, where's the money going? What's in it for me? So I just wanted to clear that up. So thank you for sharing. Also, this is my question. And going back to, are we too hard on Black men? The hot button topic, the effeminization of the Black man, is constant. It is constant, as if, the gay, quote unquote, gay agenda is only targeted to Black men. If a Black comedian puts on a dress, all hell breaks loose. There goes more effeminization of the Black man. The little rapper, I always forget his fucking name. Help me out, y'all. The little skinny one that does the cowboy song.
Is it Uzi?
Yeah, no.
Uzi?
No, Little Nas.
Oh,
Yeah,
Little Nas.
Nas X. Like, he was put here to feminize the Black teenagers. Why do you think there's an attack on the feminization of Black men, where it's like they're not even free to express themselves artistically without taking the burden of the effeminization of all Black men? Why can't Black men just be? And when I say just be gay, be polyamorous, be feminine, want to wear nail polish, not want to wear nail polish, grow their hair, not grow their hair, wear skinny jeans, the rest of the male population does whatever the fuck they want, right? Without that pressure of the effeminization of the white man or the feminization of the Latino. Why is there this emphasis and a fear, sounds like, even sometimes, the feminization of the Black man? Why do you think that is an issue? And again, are we being too hard on Black men? Like, making sure even their masculinity is intact for the survival of the people.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That was exactly what it is. I feel like even if you were, it may just be, and I'll be honest, I do believe it's specific to American Black males. And I'll just be real honest. It is different. Even if it was someone who's from Africa, it is not the same. It is not the same energy that you'll get from a West Indian man. Not even the same. It's different. And I've lived in Florida, where for a very long time. So I can see the difference between an American man and a West Indian man, and all kinds of you just see it, and it's felt. They are just held to a different standard when it comes to being masculine. And it's really unfortunate. And because there are some men, like, if you go somewhere, you'll even hear it in the households where, your daughters and stuff. And I understand people get molested, please, I get it. But it's like, you can't sit too close to me. Like, they're all gonna end up being so masculine or too manly. They're gonna try to take any woman that's out there. It's like, they're not animals, they're people. And that's one thing that I like in a man, actually, is be not necessarily very, very over the top affectionate, but who can get down to that point where they can be like, I'm okay with giving out hugs to my kids and being very playful with them. You get the idea in your head that Black males are always like, they're quiet. They're not going to enjoy conversations with their children. They're not going to enjoy conversations with their wives. They're just there to make money and go out and be men and drink beer and smoke and cheat, because that's what men do who are Black males. That's the idea that, I think women put in their heads. And unfortunately, in relationships too, where you see, a man come home, it just drives me crazy. A man come home and he might be having a horrible time. He might have a breakdown that week. And I get it. You see these little things, and he'll start crying. And you come home, you see him crying. And you're like, I'm so sorry. You might say, what's wrong with you? There's no it's what's wrong with you? Get over it. That's girly, or that's a pussy. Like, you get yelled at by a woman like that. Or she might even take to the street and tell her friends, oh girl, he ain't no real man. But if that was a white man, you would be like, oh, he just a little stressed. He don't get that energy. He can, you've seen the little TikToks lately. They're always Black males that get called out real hard for it. But if that was a white man tearing up saying he's been real stressed, they would have took him to a little psychiatrist and he'd have been fine. Or he could express himself. And then women don't give them that space to be a person, not a man, a person. We all go through things. And I think Black women are really hard on black males when it comes to in the house and the relationship, where they even expect them not to show any, any vulnerability, but then you complain about them not being vulnerable to you. And men are kind of unforgiving. You do that once to a man, you ain't never gonna see that again. Never see it again. And you took that from them, so they're not going to show you that side of them because you made it seem like that's a no-no.
I love that point of, I love that point of just letting them be a person, like even taking the gender out of it. Let them be, just let them be a person, and people have feelings, right? People in general. I want to piggyback off what you said. It's true, because Dominican men like me, don't come for me, Dominicans. But like growing up in the Bronx, Dominican men, they're very metrosexual. They wear the skinny, the slippery bottom shoes. They taper their eyebrows. And those are men. Those are men. Like, you don't want to get into a problem with a Dominican man in the Bronx in his skinny jeans and his slippery bottoms. Like, those are men. Now, I'm not talking about the gay men. I'm talking about these are men. When white men got really fancy with the slick hair and, the tighter suits, they were called metrosexuals. But when black men do it, you're right. It's like, oh, he must be gay. Oh, that's gay. Oh, that's too feminine. So is there extra pressure? Gentlemen, what do you think about Mr. Nancy? Oh, what do you think about the effeminization, this threat of masculinity being taken away in the black community?
Well, first of all, there's a flip side to this that I've seen, and I've experienced. I will say this: an arrogant white man is perceived as confident, while a confident black man is often perceived as arrogant, due to the fact that black masculinity, full-blown black masculinity, yes, it does make people feel uncomfortable. Now, I'm not talking about violent, boorish, and just basically vicious. I'm talking about that stern, hardline black masculinity that does make America uncomfortable. We're talking about the kind of masculinity like James Evans, Rock Emerson, Khalid Muhammad, and those were my, concepts of masculinity growing up. And you found that, yes, those names that I mentioned, those were removed from, the media outlets. So they couldn't be emulated by too many of us. Look, at the end of the day, yes, we have to keep certain things in mind. There is some degree of a deliberate agenda. I'm not going to get into the whole gay agenda thing. That's just stuff is like kind of overblown. But there is a deliberate on code task to ensure that black men are controlled. And it has to be, because if you're at the top of the food chain, your main goal is to maintain power. And black men, if they really understood and really stayed on code and were really focused on their goals and understood their power and their abilities, and if black men really truly competed with other people, yeah, there'd be a problem. There'd be a huge problem, because a prime example of that is what occurred in communities such as Rosewood and communities such as what we refer to as Black Wall Street. When black people are on point and on code, people, people will intend to destroy them before they become too big enough to handle.
Oh, and can I just make a comment, if you don't mind? Just a comment. I know I'm out of turn, but could it be possible that if that black males also interpret as even young, that being loud and gruff and that equals masculinity, masculinity, then just being assertive in moving a certain way, maybe there's a translation of what it really looks like to be manly is always interpreted by Black men to put out there like you have to be rah rah rah, but there's men who are masculine who are not like that.
Do you know that I will speak from a scientific perspective, and you can all look this up. This isn't bullshit. Do you know that black men and black people, period, have more fast twitch muscle fibers than other races of people, which is often supported and maintained through higher testosterone levels? Black men a
Yeah.
lot of times have much higher levels of testosterone. This is why you'll have like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old black kid who looks, I mean, he looks fucking ripped. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times our physiology, which is straight from West Africa, you know, we our physiology, you know, we tend to carry higher levels of testosterone. I will also contend, I will also not contend, but also like to mention that another example of this is West Indian men, Jamaican men. Jamaican men are very masculine because we come from a very high testosterone masculine people. You know, what I mean, we were often known as the most violent slaves. Haitians are also very violent, you know, and yes, you know, I mean, with high testosterone comes high degree or propensity for violence. Now, we need to really look at all of these things when we sit down and we judge, and when we really tend to misunderstand what it really means to be a black man. And the last thing that I would say is that, again, this is not bullshit, because I'll tell you this: when shit hits the fan, and you got cops surrounding a particular brother, and shit goes left, 3 or 4 of them try to take this guy down because, yes, we tend to be exceptionally strong, physically strong. It's just what it is. There's a lot of layers to the black man and black man that many of us don't sit down and take into consideration.
Um, I agree, but to me, it's one of those things where, like you said, like sometimes the black man can be arrogant. It's a fact based off these panels we have seen since this pandemic. A lot of these men, they they are very confident in the wrong information that they speak on. So it's true, but the men you mentioned before, those were scholars. It's like they knew what they were
No, what I
talking
said.
about.
Wait 1 second. What I said is that that confident black man is often perceived as arrogant. That's what I said. I didn't say, you know, what I
Oh,
mean, many black men were arrogant.
but they are. I said,
Okay.
right. But like you, Haran, right? They might consider
Mhm.
you arrogant, but you know your stuff, so you know you don't fit in that
Okay.
category.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it. Like brother Ish, he talks, but he knows what he's talking about. He might be perceived as arrogant, but he knows what he's talking about. The, we've have been on these panels where the men that they will talk, and you're like, that's misinformation. But you cannot tell them from you can't tell them any which way that they're wrong. I said that's arrogant. I said we have a lot of men speaking from misinformation. I said so that perception is is truer and truer by the day based off these panels. I said so is it a perception or is that the reality? And we like me and you have to fight back like no, when you talking to me, I know what I'm talking about and I can show you and you can kiss my ass. I said we can say
I'll
that
agree to
because
that.
we know. I said,
I know, I'll agree to that.
these other men cannot.
I'll agree to that. I've seen it. I mean, well, all right. Well, for instance, I'll use an example. There's a lot of times, you know what I mean? I know I'm not cammed up, but I'm kind of a big guy. And you know what I mean, there's a lot of times, you know what I mean, when I'm in a room, especially when I'm in a corporate setting, and I'm speaking in a particular manner, there's a lot of times that I have to be conscious of the temperature in the room, because in a lot of ways, when you when you look a particular way, when you're physically, you know what I mean, built a particular way as a black man, and you have a deep voice, and you're speaking in a very, you know what I mean, commanding tone or deliberate tone, tends to rub some people the wrong way if they're uncomfortable with what you're saying, and then the temperature of the room kind of changes. It's kind of like saying, let's use another example. Terry Crews is less intimidating because they got this nigga jiggling and jigging around, you know, for chicken. So he's less intimidating. Now, if he wasn't doing that, and if he was a lot more stern and stoic, then he'd be a lot more intimidating. He'd be a black man that they're kind of like, I don't know if we can control him. But he's easier to control because he's more so, regardless of the fact that he might be built a particular way and so on and so forth. You can see that he's you know what I mean, internally, he's the kind of guy who just wants to go along to get along. I'm hoping I made my point.
Yeah, now I got you now.
I think
Yeah,
that
F. Terry
in
Crews.
relationship to that Terry Crews dynamic, we have to, like the men you referenced, we have to get past that. Like we have to make the room uncomfortable and still remain to be, you know, the intelligent, powerful individuals that we are.
Absolutely. I mean, don't I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, you know, when I say I watch the temperature of the room, I'll still speak in a particular, you know what I mean, manner, but I still have to make sure that I'm not making people feel grossly intimidated. I still have to work with these people. You know what I mean? So they have to feel comfortable to some degree. Now, I'm not going to be samboing and smiling with nobody at the end of no, you know what I mean, end of no meeting, and you know what I mean, and you know, going out of my way to them feel, you know what I mean, important and so on and so forth. But there are methods in how to handle things. You know, soft skills are important for everyone if you're trying to handle things, particularly on you know what I mean, in a diplomatic fashion. Like for instance, if you know, when men sit down and have a conversation, men sit down and have a conversation, we speak to each other in a particular manner. We speak to each other in a controlled, understood, particular manner. Because if there are two actual men sitting down in front of each other, looking eye to eye, there is a chance for things to go left, and things might get violent if something is taken out of context. So brothers sit down they try to, because on either end, nobody wants violence. No, because you know, I mean, violence is at the end of the day, it's a very unproductive thing. You know, it gets messy. It gets everybody bloody, and we're pretty much right back to where we started. You know what I mean? We're trying to fix the problem and get to where we're trying to get to, brother. Now, you know, as I said, in those kind of situations, yes, diplomacy is important. Because if we're not thinking about about being diplomatic, then what happens? Like I said, shit might get violent.
So let me throw Brother Ish. You didn't cut. We got No Saint. He's on color people time. He's hella late. So I guess he'll have some parting words. What's up, No Saint?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
No, I'm just listening to the conversation.
Okay, before you jump in, I wanted Brother Ish to address the Effeminization. You didn't address that issue. You said something about Terry Crews. I meant in general.
So go back. I didn't understand the question. So repeat it again.
I was talking about going back to, are we too hard on black men? The hot button topic about effeminization of black men. There's always a lot of focus and emphasis on if a black comedian puts on a dress, or you know what I mean, a black man wears skinny jeans, right? Where it's like a white man, they'll just call him metrosexual. Same thing with Dominican men. They wax their eyebrows, they do the skinny jeans, they do the slippery bottoms. They're very much, you know what I mean, men, and will beat your ass to prove it. But when a black man does such, it's like a big to do, because there's some sort of attack and there's an effeminization of black men, blah, blah, yada, yada. What do you say to that? That was the question. Are we too hard on black men? We have to show like, no, I'm a man.
No, I think that we do. I think that hardness in that aspect of it, no, we're not too hard. I think that it's important that we stop, because we're in this process of redefinition. This is what I see. That we need to have some sort of line of demarcation, because since there's this era of gender gender identification, people are looking to determine what is a man, what isn't a man, what is a male, what is, is it a man, a male, or is it a female, or all those type of things. So with all that in play, there is a point of like, no, this is not acceptable, or that this is not what that is. That can be what that is over there to the left, but over here, this is what real men do. So that's not, there is an intention, I believe, to blur the lines, because it works for those in like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers, and goes into the racial paradigm and things that are innate in relationship to population and dominant and recessive genes and that whole dynamic. And I don't want to take us too deep into the weeds, but
I'm not gonna let you.
if you read, huh?
No, I'm not gonna let you stay on topic. But before you continue off on a tangent, when you talk about men, like there are other men of color who are metrosexual and they're not worried about the feminization of their ethnic group, be it Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Jamaicans even, you know what I mean? These are very fancy men who are men, right? They're not homosexual, they're not gay, they're men. So why is it that Black American men, if they're in a pair of skinny jeans, it's like, oh, the effeminization. I want to push back just a little tinge on something you said, where it's like, no, we got to play hardball with the Black men who are acting effeminate. But a little while ago, it sounded like the motherfucker who don't want to get a job has to be coddled and cheered. And baby, I'm going to make your favorite steak because you went to apply for a job. So be hardcore on effeminization, but coddle a motherfucker who doesn't have the self-determinism to get up and get his own fucking job, which should be innate for a man, right? Should be innate for a man, but that you should be soft with and you should be skillful. But if a man is wearing skinny jeans, then you got to be hard and make sure he's a man. Sounds a little hypocritical to me, sounds biased, sounds unfair. I would think that the emphasis would be on teaching a man to fucking get out there and be a fucking resource to his family, but there's more emphasis on the feminization. That's fucking bizarre to me, right? Like if I had a feminine man who's gonna take care of me versus the masculine guy in the house but can't get a fucking job, I'm gonna take the guy in the slippery bottoms. I am.
Well, I get you on that, and I agree with you on that point. But so when I was talking about supporting an individual, I wasn't talking about the coddling in the manner in which you describe it. I was just saying there's different options and skill sets versus beating down an individual verbally in the household. I said a woman needs to be more skillful. So that was the point. I wasn't saying that she needs to talk to him like she's, sitting in romper room. I'm just saying be more skillful and not demean the individual. There's you can do uplifting tactics versus, negative reinforcement. That's all my point was. So in relationship to that, yes, when you're talking about your masculine development, that's a physical dynamic. That's a physical paradigm. That's a physical expression. So there is a sense of aggression that's attached to that when you bring that energy and you're talking about that subject. So when I'm talking to the brothers on a certain level, it's like, no, come on, Black man, we're going to come over here. We're going to lift this car. We're going to do this. It has a different energy based upon what it is. But there are other times when you're having conversations with a brother where he may be having challenges and you have to give him that space of saying, I'm having difficult times right now. I'm having, this, that, and the other. And you sit down and you listen as a brother, but you still have a firmness, but it's just a smoother approach. That's all I'm saying.
And wait, sense? I have a question. Why? Because Jen was saying, Here's a good example because they just freaked me out. This is one of the ways I figured out when I was very young. I was like, there's a difference between American black men and any West Indians and all that. When you go out and you see men like grinding and all that, like Jamaican men, they get down there with you. They grind. You see, anyone else, Spanish ethnicity, they'll be dancing and all that. But Black American men, they stand on the wall or their shoulder lean or whatever. They're not really moving. And if you ask them, why don't you want to dance? They'll say things like, oh, that's that, I don't dance. That's shoot, I'm a man. And you're like, okay, but this guy over here is about to let me rotate on him. He gonna rotate back. And I just mean that why is it looked at as if he's not, like I would go out with my American boyfriend. I'd be like, oh, you're cool. High five. You're sitting up there at the bar. But then like when I went on the dance floor, I'm like, I'm about to go out here with this Jamaican man and me and him about to make it look like we having the best time of our lives. And that's what would happen. I wouldn't be able to enjoy moments because he was so worried about if he didn't look like a man. And that's what I'm saying. Why is it that American black men feel like that kind of thing like that is feminine, but then everybody else can do it? And there's no issue. No woman goes, oh, you're gay because you're salsa dancing, or you're acting too feminine because you're gyrating your crotch at me. I listen, ain't nobody ever said that. Any lady has never said don't gyrate your crotch at me when you're in a dance situation. Okay, I'm just being honest. So this is a little weird. I'm just saying, why do you think that is?
And I wanna just add to that. If we're on the subject of are we too hard on black men, then it should be across the board, right? If we're too hard on them when they can't get a job, then we have to realize then we may be too hard on them regarding masculinity, right? Like they don't always have to, beat their chest. I'm a man. Like you have to understand that, and just my opinion here, you have to understand that some men may not want to wear Timberlands and baggy jeans. Some men may find, the skinny jeans, the slippery bottoms, a nice a form of fashion that they want to get into. So if we're not going to be hard on black men, it should be across the board. It shouldn't just be like what your religion says. We should go hard out, or like when a motherfucker can't get a job, we should be soft there, but we got to be hard here. No black comedians in dresses. Like we can't be hypocritical. If it's going to be, we're not going to be hard on them, then we have to consider that across the board, because not every little black boy wants to wear wife beaters and Timberlands and a fucking Yankee fitted to look like 50 Cent, right? They have different interests. With that said, I know we're going to get out of here soon, but I'm curious what No Saint has to say all late to the party.
Hey. So I just want to share what I observed. I'm going to share a story when we're talking about breaking the mold. So my grandfather never told his dad he loved him. My dad never really told me that he loved me, although I knew he did, right? Mm-hmm. You know whose kids aren't going to not say I love you to their kids? My kids, because I broke that, right? Mm-hmm. What does that have to do? What I see, the more I'm in these YouTube streets on the other side of the tracks, I'm saying, God dang, man, I do have it easy because I don't have all these pressures. Like, there's no mold of being a man in my community. We're all individuals. And I think that from my observation, there's this expectation on black men to be a certain way. And if you're not a certain way and you get out of line, they're going to, the peer pressure, they're going to let you know about it. I heard the lady talking about, and I've seen this myself where,
well, vote for me, you ain't black.
Yeah, no, I've seen like the lady was saying right there where, I've seen it where the kid falls and hurts his knee. The black kid falls and hurts his knee, and the mom saying, you better not cry, and I'm just like, Jesus, I mean, you're a man, or, and that's so like, I don't know, it's so old school when it, as far as like in the white community, like telling a kid or a boy that he can't have emotions. I'm sure there's it's not every white person. I'm sure there's white people that do that too, but it's just the pressure, man. It's just like to not, people are diverse and there's not one way to be a man. I mean, when I was in the military, we had alpha males and they were the leaders, but you had to have followers too. Not everybody's a leader, but not every man has to be a certain way. And that's what, I don't know. That's just my observation. It seems like there's like, when I was in New Orleans, I remember telling a friend this. We walked by a gay bar and there was these black gay guys, and they look like, the guys that would run you over on a football field. And I'm like, I never thought of a black man being gay that looked like that, but here they are. But it's probably because it's it's in the community. It's so you can't be that way. You can't be gay, or you know what I mean. It's just it's very interesting. I do want to ask the guy that was talking about the quick twitch muscles, which is West African, mostly comes out of West Africa, but he linked it up to testosterone, and I didn't know where he got that from. I'm kind of curious if he wants to address that, because I've never heard that before.
Ron?
I'll have to if you send me some information, maybe an email address or so on and so forth. I'll have to gather my, studies, basically send you. There's a lot of things on it, basically in terms of what our degrees of testosterone are and how
Okay.
this is relative to fast twitch muscles. It's a very long, drawn out situation, and we just don't have that kind of time right now.
Got you.
But if you could just put some kind of contact info in the chat, I'll just think that we can have a discussion behind the scenes. I just want to speak on one of the things that you just said. And this is in no way, shape, or form. This quick disclaimer: this is in no way, shape, or form to try to simplify your existence. Regardless of race, creed, or gender. I truly feel that everyone has their own challenges, and and so on. But you have to understand something. The reason why you have more space to be more space to explore your personality and you show varied emotions is because, well, as a white man, honestly, your power is to only show up and be white. So you're good. As long as you show up and be a white guy, you're good. With black men, we don't have that. We have to be show a degree of strength. We have to always be on point. We have to be aware of everything that's going on. I'm going to give you a quick example of what happened to me maybe 2 months ago. I'm on my way to the deli to go get a sandwich, right? I'll go get a sandwich. It's about 12 a.m. I'll go get a sandwich. After I get my sandwich, I'm on my way home. I have like a white shirt on and some jeans. And I'm about to cross the street. All of a sudden, there's 10 cops behind me. And one of them yells, "Yo!" And I look behind me and I see that there's 10 cops right behind me. Immediately in my mind, I'm already like, okay, let's go. And on the radio, it said white shirt, white cap. Now they let me go because I didn't have a white cap on. Now, if I had a white cap on, I'd have been surrounded by 10 cops. And who knows what would have happened.
But I have a question. Why would that make you more masculine, though?
Wait one second. When I'm trying to explain something to you. In that particular moment, what happens is that I have to basically understand that anything can happen at any given time. So a lot of times, as a black man, I can't relax. You can't relax and dance. You can't relax and do this. You can't relax and do that because there's so many things and so many, subconscious threats that hit you in the head most of the time. A lot of us are suffering from PTSD. So this is to answer your question. A lot of times, we equate, ideas. A lot of black men equate ideas of masculinity to being absolutely overtly stern because we always in our minds have to be prepared for some sort of ominous threat, whether it's the cops, whether it's your somebody on the block, something. We're constantly living in a constant state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
Not a lot of white guys have to deal with that.
No, point very taken. When I did open up, I said, yeah, it's a lot easier. It's obviously a lot easier to be white and to do all these things I'm saying. That's what I'm getting. That's kind of what I'm glad you shared that story with me, of your experiences, because I certainly can understand your point of view, where you're coming from. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. But yeah, I definitely came. I did come in saying, hey, it's a lot easier because there isn't this mold that I have to be a certain way. So yeah, it was a good explanation though.
Right. I mean, but
What about
I'm just trying to get the version I would like to hear. Like I said, it's not, I'm just giving a little pushback just so we kind of expand it if that's the case. But even in that situation, becoming more masculine or being more aggressive would not have given you any better result. So I guess I'm saying, I know you were maybe in a state of anxiety and all that great stuff. I understand that. But does that mean you have to be always in a state of aggression and anger and never show any other emotion other than that all the time?
do you are you familiar with what happens to a soldier after they come back?
Oh yes.
Provided that they see action.
Right.
They constantly, they're constantly pensive. They don't really relax. They're in a constant state of sometimes they can seem overly masculine, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
Well, I've seen that.
Well, I mean, and one of my
where
partners, he has actually PTSD, and he is actually not like that at all. But I can tell when he's being assertive, but he never has to show this additional aggression. Not everyone, but he doesn't have to show this additional manlyhood to know that he's serious or taken as a man. I don't see him do that. But I do see that some people do. Everyone's different. Some people do take it to the other end. They look very serious. They're on edge. I get that because he still is that. But the extra aggression, the extra things that are put on him where he has to feel like a man all the time, I don't see it. I don't know if he feels that internally, but I don't see him lashing out or being negative, or saying, I can't wear this or I can't wear that or I can't do, he doesn't do that. So then in that case, I don't see, I do understand the trauma, I get that, but on a general, most Black males who are in, America, let's say, they're not all filled with PTSD. That's not the case. So why are they, I think in our communities, we just press that they have to be manly men and they can't show anything else. And if they show anything else, then they're less of a man and they're not good enough.
I think that's incorrect.
And other men portray that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to jump in because we're going to close soon. I agree with that. 100%.
Oh, go ahead.
Because everybody's not suffering from PTSD. However, I think growing up from being a very small child and constantly hearing what you have to can be a form of PTSD, right? Because before you make a move, you got your mama in your head or your uncle or your daddy in your head telling you, man up, don't cry, don't be fucked, don't wear this, don't wear that. So that is, even if it's light, it is a form of trauma where you're always,
that's true,
where you're always second guessing, like, I better not cry right now, even though this shit is killing me, I better not cry. And, so there are different forms and everybody is different. And I completely understand PTSD because it makes me walk into certain places a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Look, and, I get more offended if a white chick raises her voice to me than if it's somebody Black or brown. I get extra offended. Don't talk to me like that. So I totally get in at different ways of getting PTSD, and just get help if you feel that way, because no one should be in that state of rage or questioning themselves or having to move a certain way in rooms, right? Be like white people, be like No Saint, walk in and be like, hey, I'm just here, I'm a man, I'm just here to kick it. I'd rather us be like that. This panel was fucking amazing, and this panel was so good. It's the type of fucking panel that doesn't get 500 people in the room. That's how good it is, and that's how you can tell on YouTube if you had a really good educational panel. When there's not 100 people in the chat, believe it or not, it's backwards on fucking YouTube. But I love you all for your contributions. This was really, really dope. I do want to go around the room. I usually don't, but this one was important. And even No Saint, if you have something to say from your observations, and I'll let you go first because the word of the rest of my panel is much more important than yours. I'm sure you understand. So are we too hard on Black men? I want to know if it's yes or no for you. And if it is yes, if you feel we are too hard on Black men, what we can do to consider them and their feelings and what they're experiencing, especially in this country. If your answer is yes, we're too hard on them. If your answer is no, we're not, I already know why. Okay. So No Saint, you can go first.
Oh, great. No, I'm not gonna. All I'm gonna say is that I appreciate the panel. Ish, I appreciate your everything that I've gotten to know you over the last few weeks or whatever. I do appreciate your input, and that's what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna comment on this space. I'll wait for the next topic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's of me to. I gave my 2 cents of what I thought, and yeah, that's enough from a white guy.
So let me ask you a question though before you go. Also, Haran, Ishmael and No Saint threw their email addresses in the private chat if you want to grab those before we close out. No Saint, let me ask you this though before you go, because I'm not letting you off the hook, Whitey.
Okay.
I'm letting you off the hook. Have you ever been in a space where you deemed a Black man as a threat or more aggressive than you or yourself? Or did you ever notice like that Black man is a little aggressive? Were you ever in a situation like that? Or you just kumbaya with everybody?
Listen, you're talking to a guy who's walked into a all black club, the only white guy there. I don't really get intimidated. The only time I've ever been intimidated by, usually it's any homeless guy that starts spouting off. Then I get intimidated. I'm like, oh, I'm scared of that guy. But no, I haven't, like, in a personal sense. I've been in the military. My job. I've never. If I was in the boardroom with I don't know the guy that was talking earlier. I can't see his picture. I'm not sure what his name was. I wouldn't be intimidated like by his size. Only if he was coming after me to punch me, then I'd be intimidated. But just in a boardroom setting and he's raising his voice or whatever, that's just business, so no, that for me, no. But I've been exposed, man. I didn't just live in an all, rich neighborhood.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
good guys. You good white folk.
No, I'm not, yeah, I'm not, I grew up, look where I grew up. I mean, I grew up in the New Orleans area. It's pretty diverse. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for being so bold to come up here. And
I was in the chat for a while before I came up. I wasn't sure if I was gonna fit in on this conversation. It's the last two conversations have been a little bit iffy for me. Like, should I even be on there?
I
But
promise you, I'm gonna do a topic on white people, and you can start.
That'd be great. All right. Have a good night.
Right. Thank you, No Saint. Miss Polly, are we too hard on Black men? If yes, what can we do to curb that?
Yes, I do think so. I do think so. How can we curb it? I think it would probably start within our communities, in our homes. Basically, kind of start there and then kind of work its way out. I mean, just giving examples of that is like, if you're a mother of Black children or boys, letting them have that space to cry, or not telling them man up all the time. Manning up doesn't mean you can't cry or feel sad. It could just be like, hey, I know you feel sad, but what are the other options? Let's talk about other things, not just, you can't cry because that's stupid. That's not what men do. There's got to be more conversation than just that. And kind of showing that and having more Black male role models kind of showing a little bit more sensitivity and being allowed to do that and not be called names or, put out there like something's wrong with them. I think within our own community, and then that should then start changing the outside, how the outside looks at our black males. I think that would help. Yeah, definitely. That would be something I think is a solution.
Thank you. Please hug your baby boys. Please hug your baby boys. So when they out in the world dating the women who enjoy affection and like women like affectionate men, hug your boys. Don't send them out there like that. Don't. Okay. Thank you, Miss Polly. Haran, what you got? Are we too hard on black men? If yes, tell us why and tell us what we can do. If not, then all good. We already know why you don't.
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. So there it is. Brother Ish, are we too hard on black men? Not just the effeminate ones, but in general.
Yeah, you should be quiet.
Are we too hard on black men? If so, tell us how we can change that.
No.
Sir.
No. I agree with Haran. We're not hard enough in some areas. We definitely need to be harder on black men. We have to. We're in a community in crisis. So we need to be harder on black men. So no, we're not too hard because there's too much going on. Our women are being abused. Our children are being abused. Our communities are in a decimation, and we need to be harder. And we need to take more accountability and not look for anyone else for handouts. We need to do it ourselves as a community, gird up our loins and separate and do our own thing.
Okay.
So no, we're not. Huh?
I said, okay, separate. So we shouldn't have no saint on the panel again? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mr. Nancy or Tristan, and then you could take us out, Tristan. Are we too hard on black men? If so, welcome, black men. If we are too hard on them, Tristan, how can we curb that? How can we fix it? If you don't think so, then you could take us out and dismiss the class.
Well, we're too hard on the wrong ones.
Oh.
The ones that are doing the job, like the Harans, the Brother Ish, I guess me. We are expected to solve the problems, and we always say okay, and we'll solve it. Do we crack? Maybe, maybe not. Majority of the time we won't. But the pressure needs to be on the ones that need strength. We don't need to be told what to do. We're getting it done. Leave us alone. That's how I'll say it. So it's the pressure's on the wrong ones, because we can handle it, but the ones that cannot, they either what is it? Pressure makes diamonds or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta start weeding out the people that can't handle the pressure. We've proven we can handle it. That's why they keep coming to us. We don't need it.
I like
And for the ones that I'll be nice, because this is a nice black man panel tonight. So for the black men who feel lost or stuck, or feel the world is too tough, or you're a little scrappy, I have nice words for you. You glow different when you give yourself all the love you used to seek for others.
Ooh.
That is my parting gift for you guys. Focus on yourself. I love you all. Class is dismissed.
Good team.
Thank you.
Good night, folks.
Good night, guys. Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. Good night. Wow, that was a nice note to end on, people. I love that. I think it sums it up beautifully. Let's not be hard on the men that are out there putting their best foot forward and giving you the most effort, because they catch a lot of shrapnel from the guys that deserve to be, you know what I mean, put in a chokehold about manhood and things like that. So So hold on. All right, guys. So with that said, I am out. Hit that like and subscribe on your way out. Don't forget to support this show on the Block with Jen Cash App if you didn't catch me in the super chat. And I will see you here tomorrow. Also on the Block with Jen at Gmail if you have a topic for me. I'm going to keep bringing it as long as y'all keep showing up. I appreciate you all. Have an amazing night. Good night, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I did. And I'm out.